Chapter 398. Who's there? One of the green-clothed men was sweating profusely. It was not because Lin Yu's voice appeared abruptly, but because he had already appeared in the array formation. How did he get in? Impossible. Our 8 elements beast trapping array can't be broken through the barrier from the inside or outside. Where did this kid come from? Although they could not see Lin Yu's appearance clearly, they knew that he was a young man from his voice. It was just that this person appeared like a ghost. Well, I'm asking you a question. Lin Yu stood with his hands behind his back, forming a stark contrast with the black-clothed woman's nervous appearance. Moreover, it was also because of Lin Yu's appearance that the black-clothed woman's self-destruction stopped. 9. Even if this be *TCH's hands and feet combined, it won't be enough. No way. Kid, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. Otherwise, I'll kill you too. Lin Yu could not help but shudder. Your taste is too strong. Forget it. I'm not playing with you anymore. He turned around and saw that the beast-trapping array was still crushing and shrinking. Lin Yu and the black-clothed woman moved closer. Miss, lend me a sword. Who are you? The black-clothed woman had just opened her mouth, but Lin Yu did not want to say too much. His 5 fingers formed a claw, and the thunderclap divine sword actually left the black-clothed woman's hand on its own. Snatching a sword from the air, the black-clothed woman's pupils dilated. Lin Yu's move seemed simple, but to snatch a sword from her, a second-layered heaven of law's cultivation, his sword Dao skills were at least 2 realms higher than the black-clothed woman's. However, before the black-clothed woman could think too much, she had already seen Lin Yu swing his sword and attack. The moment Lin Yu swung his sword, the thunderclap divine sword's blue sword light illuminated the night sky of the forest. However, Lin Yu's sword technique was different from hers. Hers was forcefully slashing the beast-trapping array with laws. However, the black-clothed woman only realized at the moment when Lin Yu attacked that this kid was only at the Grand Supreme realm. The thunderclap divine sword is illegal. You can't use it. You'll be counterattacked by the thunder laws on it. The black-clothed woman immediately shouted. But Lin Yu ignored her words. The woman gritted her teeth. She had a premonition that not only would she not be able to leave this place today, but she would also be buried with a corpse. However, in the next moment, the black-clothed woman saw that the sword technique in Lin Yu's hand was very different from hers. It was actually aimed at the southeast direction of the array that was already 3 feet away, and seemed to have a purpose as it thrust it out. Even someone at the second level of the laws can't break the formation set up by the 8 of us. You, a mere mid-stage Grand Supreme Realm cultivator, are simply courting death. Third brother, this brat wants to split our women. Since he doesn't know what's good for him, let's send him on his way. With that said, the 8 of them operated the beast-trapping formation to the extreme, and a storm suddenly gathered. Be careful. Kill the man and leave the woman alive. Otherwise, our brothers won't feel anything. Yes, big brother. But just as these people finished speaking, the rumbling thunder divine sword had already touched the edge of the formation. Only a clang was heard. The sound of metal colliding was hundreds of times more ear-piercing than before. The sound turned into a wave of air that shot out from the rumbling thunder divine sword's blade and directly hit the point that Lin Yu was aiming at. Oh no, how did that brat know? This formation was created by us brothers. No one knows about this flaw. The 8 of them were shocked because when Lin Yu's sword landed, it hit the most crucial point of the 8 of them working together. Sword chi and sound waves erupted at the same time. The rumbling thunder divine sword's entire body shook, but that was all. On the other hand, the 8 elements beast trapping formation began to shatter continuously. The shattering waves exploded. The 8 of them did not dare to worry too much and immediately retreated dozens of steps. However, the moment they retreated, Lin Yu had already picked up Xiong Wenlong's wife, Bai, and disappeared before everyone's eyes. Not only the 2 of them, but even the black-clothed woman had disappeared at the same time. Damn it, they ran away. After them, the 8 of them kept searching for Lin Yu's traces in the night, but at that moment, the forest was pitch black. In addition, Lin Yu and the other two had deliberately concealed their auras. So how could they find them? We're going to be punished by the young master tonight. Forget it. That kid can break our formation. If we report this matter to the young master, we might be able to deal with him leniently. The 8 of them had no choice but to leave. However, when they left, in the night, Emo Shui's figure suddenly appeared. At this moment, Emo Shui did not come alone. Instead, he stood behind another middle-aged man. The man's expression was calm. Behind him, Emo Shui asked fearfully, "Master, should we investigate?" "No need." The middle-aged man smiled faintly. "Let the Emperor's Gate settle their own internal strife. As for us, we just need to do a good job of the Sword Dao Conference." Emo Shui immediately agreed, not daring to go against the words of the man in front of him. The middle-aged man asked again, "Is the matter of the Zither Emperor's Gate normal?" Emo Shui naturally understood what the other party was asking. "That 7th Highness accompanied a person called Lin Yu. I heard that he is the new Imperial Preceptor of the Zither Emperor's Gate. It's very strange." "Lin Yu? I've never heard of him." After the middle-aged man finished speaking, Emo Shui seemed to have recalled that on the way back from sending Lin Yu back, he had been frightened by Lin Yu's gaze. He immediately felt a little indignant and hurriedly added, "That kid looks to be only 15 or 16 years old, and his combat power is only at the Grand Supreme realm. However, his attitude is extremely arrogant, and he doesn't seem to take our Sword Emperor's Gate seriously at all. A 15 or 16-year-old Imperial Preceptor of the Emperor's Gate." The middle-aged man couldn't help but sneer. "It seems that the Zither Emperor's Gate is as doomed as the rumors say. Last time, the spies said that the Zither Emperor's Gate experienced a huge battle. I wonder which Emperor's Gate took action." Emo Shui was surprised. "Master, we actually didn't know that the Emperor's Gate took action. There must have been a huge battle." The middle-aged man continued. "Otherwise, the Zither Emperor's Gate wouldn't have cut off all transactions with all the Emperor's Gates and even set up a barrier to isolate it from the other Emperor's Gates. An isolation barrier." Emo Shui was overjoyed. "Then there must be a problem with the Zither Emperor's Gate. I think there's something wrong with Lin Yu. He's just a brat, yet he's flaunting his power just because he's the Imperial Preceptor. It's hard to say." The middle-aged man shook his head. "It's precisely because of the barrier that no one knows what the Zither Emperor's Gate is doing. That's why no one dares to assert that the Zither Emperor's Gate has been severely injured." Just as Emo Shui was about to continue smearing Lin Yu's name, the middle-aged man said first, "Forget it. Let's see how Lin Yu and that high and mighty Black List emissary react at the Sword Dao meet." After saying that, he smiled in the direction where the 8 men in green had disappeared. "Let's fight. The more people who die, the better." The middle-aged man turned around and left, even though he had sensed the commotion of the battle here. However, it was the Sword Emperor's Gate's choice whether to help or not. Emo Shui also followed along. At this moment, on the other side of the forest, Lin Yu stopped with bye-bye. The rumbling thunder divine sword was stunned. The tip of the sword was inserted into the ground, and, at the same time, it was inserted in front of the woman in black who had followed him. Chapter 399. Seeing Lin Yu carrying bye-bye on his shoulder, the woman in black frowned along the way. Could it be another lecher? She cupped her fists and asked Lin Yu, "Are you a friend or a foe? Does it matter?" Lin Yu smiled noncommittally. "You're a pervert indeed." The woman in black held the Thunderblast divine sword and recalled Lin Yu's words of "all 9 of you come at once." That was something only a pervert would say. "Put her down." Pointing the sword at Lin Yu, the woman in black warned, "I just saved you. Why are you biting the hand that feeds you now?" Lin Yu felt helpless. "That's another matter. You saved my life. I'll repay you, but that doesn't mean I'll let you harm others." With that, the woman in black stepped forward and warned again, "Put her down. If you're not from the Tong Emperor sect, I can let you go." Lin Yu let go of Bye-Bye and threw her on the ground. Bye-Bye was still unconscious and had no reaction. "Put her down. What about now?" Lin Yu smiled and slowly stepped back. Since he had already saved Xiong Wenlong's wife, there was no need for him to interfere. "Hold on, who are you?" The woman in black knew that Lin Yu was about to leave and wanted to stop him. The Thunderblast Divine Sword turned into a sword light and slashed across Lin Yu's path. Lin Yu stopped. Why are you stopping me? I should know who my savior is, right? The woman in black's gaze fell on Bai Bai. Bai Bai's originally messy clothes were actually properly put on. Everything that should be covered was covered. Did I misunderstand him? The number one immortal of the Medicine Emperor's sect, Yu Xiao. You really like to poke your nose into other people's business. Lin Yu sighed. Yu Xiao's delicate body froze, and she touched her face. The gauze was still there. She didn't use the Medicine Emperor's sect's cultivation method. How could this person tell? Who is Yu Xiao? I don't know her. Yu Xiao immediately denied. If the Alchemy Emperor's Gate found out about this, she reckoned that she would be punished by her master to clean up the entire Emperor's Gate. Seeing her deny it, Lin, you couldn't be bothered with her. If you don't dare to admit it, then there's no need for me to tell you who I am. After saying that, Lin Yu casually waved his hand, and the sword chi in front of him was directly dispersed. Stay here. The rumbling thunder divine sword once again displayed its might. Sword chi rose from the ground and swept towards Lin Yu. Lin Yu shifted his feet and disappeared from where he stood. When he reappeared, he was holding his hand in the air. He only raised his hand, but what Xiao saw was the young man using his hand as a sword to chop down at her. Damn it! The sharp sword chi whizzed down, and Yu Xiao could only sheath her sword to protect herself. However, Lin Yu's sword chi was unstoppable, and it came from all directions. Yu Xiao immediately retreated, but a strand of sword chi still flashed past her shoulder. The straps on her shoulders fell off, revealing her snow-white skin and the imprint of a plum blossom. It's really you. When Lin Yu saw the plum blossom mark and confirmed that it was Yu Xiao, he turned around and left. What a powerful sword Dao! Yu Xiao was shocked, and by the time she reacted, Lin Yu had already disappeared in front of her. Bastard! She stomped her feet and pulled her shoulder straps with one hand. Since Bai Bai was still there, she naturally couldn't ignore him and chase after Lin Yu. After a long while, Bai finally woke up. Yu Xiao explained, and Bai Bai immediately cupped his fists. Thank you for saving me, miss. I'm not the one who saved you. Yu Xiao sighed softly. Forget it. That person doesn't want to reveal his identity, and I don't have the ability to make him stay. However, Yu Xiao had already memorized Lin Yu's figure and sword Dao. With such attainments in the sword Dao, you'll definitely participate in the sword Dao meet. I'll find you sooner or later. After saying that, Yu Xiao stepped into the air and left. Lin Yu returned to the guest hall. As soon as he entered his room, he immediately sensed another aura in the room. He squinted slightly and thought, could it be that Yu Xiao has chased me all the way here? Immediately afterwards, Lin Yu blasted a ray of supreme golden light towards the location of the aura. There was a loud bang. The other party immediately put up his sword chi. Sect Master, it's me. Yang Kai's voice sounded, and under the collision of the sword chi and the golden light, Yang Kai's old face was reflected in the faint light. Knowing that Lin Yu had returned, Yang Kai immediately lit up the bright fire and cupped his fists at Lin Yu. Sect Master, I've been waiting for you for a long time. You're finally here. Lin Yu's face twitched. Left Emissary Yang, are you trying to scare me to death by showing up so late at night? He was really not used to Yang Kai waiting for him in his room in the middle of the night. Yang Kai chuckled softly and said, I'm sorry, Sect Master. I only heard about your deeds on the streets, but I wasn't sure if you were the real Sect Master, so I didn't dare to show up right away. Saying so, he bowed again apologetically. It's fine, but you're quite fast. I made a commotion a few hours ago, and you found me so quickly. Lin Yu sat down, and Yang Kai immediately poured a cup of tea for Lin Yu. After taking a sip, Lin Yu put down the teacup. Yang Kai tactfully changed the topic. I followed Sect Master's instructions and sneaked in here first. I also gained some benefits. Let's hear it. Lin Yu raised his eyebrows. Yang Kai said, this Sword Dao conference is presided over by Xiao Wushuang. In fact, it's also the Sword Emperor Sect's current sword bearer, Li Qin's sword inheritance ceremony. When he mentioned Li Chen's name, he couldn't help but emphasize a lot. Left Emissary Yang, you still have some expectations for the position of sword-bearer, right? Lin Yu asked. How could he hide it from Lin Yu? Yang Kai bowed and said truthfully, Sect Master's ability to understand people is getting better and better. This subordinate originally didn't have any hope, but fortunately, Sect Master gave this subordinate hope. What he was referring to was naturally the current principal realm. It was Lin Yu who personally sent him to the opposite flower-blossoming heavens that allowed him to step into this realm. Yang Kai, who was in the invincible realm, had already given up all hope. But Yang Kai, who was in the principal realm, had the confidence to fight against everything in the Sword Emperor's sect. This confidence was also what Lin Yu wanted to give Yang Kai in the beginning. Back then, the position of sword-bearer belonged to you. Lin Yu said, according to the secrets of the Sword Emperor's sect that he learned after being trapped for 100,000 years. Yang Kai's heart tightened. Sect Master actually knows about what happened back then. I just know a little. Lin Yu nodded casually, took a sip of tea, and continued. It's just that 20 years have passed. If you want to take back what's yours, it's no longer as simple as restoring the truth. Yang Kai knew that Lin Yu was going to give him an idea, so he knelt down. Sect Master, please enlighten me. Get up. Lin Yu raised his hand, but Yang Kai was still kneeling there, ignoring him. Lin Yu said, win the Sword Dao Conference and take down Xiao Wushuang at the same time. Then, you will take over the new position of sword-bearer. The Emperor's sect only cares about benefits. Only the strong have the right to speak before you speak. Lin Yu's eyes flashed with a deep light. You should let them remember the power of the Emperor's sect's first sword. Chapter 400. Brazenly participating in the Sword Dao Conference. Yang Kai couldn't help but worry. He said to Lin Yu, Sect Master, Li Chun isn't a person who sits and waits for death. If he knows that this subordinate is back, I'm afraid he will attack me. This subordinate's death is nothing to be regretted, but this is the Sword Emperor sect. If Sect Master is implicated, this subordinate deserves to die 10,000 times. Lin Yu smiled and looked at the teacup in his hand. The tea was slowly swirling. Left Emissary Yang, if Li Chun isn't a person who sits and waits for death, then am I a person who sits and waits for death? Of course not. Sect Master's strategy is 100 times better than Li Chen's. That's good. Listen to my arrangements. I will make sure that even if Li Chun knows that you are here, he won't be able to touch you. Lin Yu smiled. Left Emissary Yang, do you have any other gains? Yes. Yang Kai knew that with the help of the Sect Master, his confidence was greatly boosted. He quickly opened the door. This subordinate also found the brother and sister who followed me back then. As soon as he finished speaking, he clapped his hands towards the door. As the sound rang out, 3 figures suddenly appeared in the dark night sky. Zhuang Tian Gang, Yang Mu, Wu De Yang. Kai pointed to the 2 men and 1 woman who appeared behind him. Sect Master, they're my sworn brother and sister from 20 years ago. They're also members of the Sword Emperor sect. They knew that I was back this time and specially came to help me. Greetings, Sect Master Lin. The 3 people bowed at the same time, but they couldn't hide the shock in their eyes. So the Sect Master you mentioned is so young, Big Brother Yang. The only woman, Yang Mu, spoke. She looked to be in her 40s, but she seemed to have taken good care of herself and was still charming. Yes, I thought that the Sect Master of the low-key sect was at least the same age as us. The other short man was the Wu De that Yang Kai mentioned. At this moment, he also chimed in. On the other hand, the tall man, Zhuang Tiangang, didn't speak. Lin Yu saw that Yang Kai was in a good mood, but he still had to deal with things. He stood up and came in front of the 3. The 3 people thought that Lin Yu was going to greet them, but they didn't expect that Lin Yu's body would explode with golden light and directly slash at them. Lord Lin, the trio's expressions changed greatly. How could they have imagined that Lin Yu would attack them? Yang Mu and Zhuang Tiangang managed to dodge the Grim Reaper's attack, but the first layer Law Realm Wu De could not. He's coming for me. His eyes widened. How could he not see that the person Lin Yu had locked onto was him? Big Brother Yang, we came to help you with good intentions. Why? Wuda unsheathed his iron sword, but the Grim Reaper was one step faster. The sharp edge of the scythe had already cut off one of Wu Da's hands. Intense pain and cries could be heard. Wu Da retreated dozens of steps, his left arm dripping with blood. Kai Yang, I was wrong about you. Wu Da looked like he had been betrayed by Yang Kai. He cursed angrily and tried to escape. Stop him. Lin Yu's calm voice sounded. Originally, Kai Yang was still in a daze. He didn't know why Lin Yu would injure him, but now he regained his composure. He didn't have time to think. Lin Yu's words were in order. Yang Kai's figure shifted. His sword chi surged, forming an overwhelming sword chi net behind Wu Da. Kai Yang, what are you doing? Yang Mu was also angry. He unleashed his full combat strength. Zhuang Tiangang was silent, but his actions were the same as Yang Mu's. He stood in front of Wu Da. Back then, this Wu became sworn brothers with you because I like your character as the Emperor Gate's first sword. But today, I was wrong about you. Wu Da retreated. Yang Kai also looked troubled. He cupped his fists and said, Sect Master must have his reasons for doing this. Please forgive me. He turned to Lin Yu. The latter's gaze fell on Wu Da. You haven't had time to tell Li Chun about Yang Kai's appearance, right? The other four's expressions changed when they heard the name Li Chun. You're slandering me. Wu Da pointed his sword at Lin Yu. This Wu and Li Chun are irreconcilable. What nonsense are you spouting? Sect Leader Lin, is there a misunderstanding here? Yang Mu cupped his fists. We've known Brother Yang for many years. He's definitely not Li Chen's people. If you don't believe me, this Wu can choose not to help Yang Kai. We'll just treat each other as brothers in this life. But why do you have to hurt him? Wu Da's voice was hoarse. What do you think? Lin Yu asked Yang Kai. The latter looked at him with absolute trust. Yang Kai absolutely believes in Sect Master. Very good. With Yang Kai's attitude, Lin Yu was too lazy to explain to the others. He looked at Wu Da with a sharp gaze. This person is strong. Brother Wu, you go first. Yang Mu knew that Lin Yu was about to make a move. He immediately took a few steps back. Okay, Sister Yang, be careful. Wu Da rolled his eyes. He did not dare to look into Lin Yu's eyes. He turned and left. But the moment he turned around, the pitch-black night sky seemed to be covered with a deeper layer of blackness. What is this? Yang Mu and Zhuang Tiangang were shocked. They had been staring at Lin Yu to prevent him from making a move. But how could they have expected that their vision would suddenly turn black? What is this? Wu Da's pupils dilated. He actually lost control of his feet at that moment. Damn it. Move. He gritted his teeth. The dark night sky dissipated. But in front of Wu Da, a sword chi was already on his neck. The sword chi was like a solid substance. It had already cut through Wu Da's neck. Just half an inch more, and his meridians would be cut. Wait. Wu Da's hair stood on end. Stop. I really didn't betray Brother Yang. Yang Mu and Zhuang Tiangang were stunned. They did not dare to move forward. They were worried that if they took another step, Lin Yu's sword chi would swing and Wu Da's head would fall to the ground. But after Wu Da finished speaking, Lin Yu's expression was still indifferent. Wu Da was terrified. He had never seen such a cold person. He was sure that in front of this young man, his life could be lost at any time. Brother Yang, save me. Wu Da shouted again. But Lin Yu's sword chi went another half an inch deeper. Don't move, or you'll really die. Lin Yu's calm voice came. I don't like liars. Wu Da did not dare to pretend anymore. I'll talk. Don't kill me. Yang Kai, Yang Mu, and Zhuang Tiangang's hearts tightened at the same time. It's me. I betrayed Brother Yang 20 years ago. But this time, Li Chun doesn't know about his return. Wu Da was sweating profusely. In order to protect himself, he finally told the truth. Lin Yu had also learned this secret from Wu Da during the 100,000 years he was trapped. But he was only in the mortal realm at that time. The method to get information was much more complicated than now. But with Lin Yu's current strength, he could use simple methods. Bastard, it's you. Yang Kai cursed, gritting his teeth. Yang Mu and Zhuang Tiangang looked at each other. Their faces also became serious. Sir, I've already told you. Can you let me go? Wu Da trembled. This Wu promises that Li Chun won't know about Brother Yang's return. But before he finished speaking, his brain was separated from his body. Chapter 4:01. Wu Da's body fell to the ground, split in two. Lin Yu's clean and efficient method left the other three speechless for a long time in shock. More importantly, this killing happened in a very short period of time. By the time they reacted, their sworn brother was already dead on the ground. He deserved to die. Yang Kai gritted his teeth. 20 years ago, he was seriously injured by Li Chun and expelled from the Sword Emperor's sect. Only then did he wander to the four-way star field. From then on, the first sword of the Emperor's sect, the legend of being able to fight a Grand Supreme while in the all-conquering realm, completely disappeared from the core star field. The coveted position of Sword Envoy should have belonged to Yang Kai. Xiao Wushuang's current identity was his identity back then. But as Lin Yu said, the Emperor's sect only cared about benefits. Yang Kai was destined to never step into the Grand Supreme realm back then. The Sword Emperor's sect would never give such a person the position of Sword Envoy. Identity, status, glory, and cultivation could not be improved. At that moment, Yang Kai expelled the Sword Dao, and everything else was taken away. I thought Li Chun was the only enemy, but I didn't expect my sworn brother to be one of the people who harmed me. Yang Kai stared at Wu Da's body. There was no hatred in his eyes, only disappointment. After a long time, he bowed deeply to Lin Yu. If it wasn't for Sect Master, I'm afraid Yang Kai would never have known the true face of Wu Da No. Lin Yu smiled casually. He did not look like someone who had just killed someone. When you really die in Li Chen's hands, I believe Wu Da will let you know the truth. After hearing this, Yang Kai could only let out a long sigh. It's hard to know what's in a person's heart. The next moment, Yang Kai looked at Yang Mu and Zhuang Tiangang. The two were stunned at the same time. We didn't. Big brother Yang. We didn't know anything about Wu Da otherwise. We wouldn't have been fooled by him. Zhuang Tiangang and Yang Mu expressed their innocence one after another. But once bitten, twice shy, Yang Kai's eyes were still sharp and questioning. They didn't. Lin Yu was worried that Kai Yang would be betrayed by his sworn brothers, and his Dao heart would collapse. So he reminded him, in this world, there are still many good people. Don't deny the good of everyone just because there are one or two bad people. The Dao is one's own Dao. Being led by the nose by others is ultimately just a technique under the Dao. Kai Yang's eyes gradually converged, his sharpness turning into understanding. This subordinate understands. The other two nodded as well. Yang Mu clasped his fists towards Lin Yu. We were wrong for not understanding sect leader Lin's intentions. She shook her head and sighed. I can't believe that after living for so long, this old woman's eyesight is still not as good as sect master Lin's. I've lived for so many years in vain. Lin Yu shrugged. In 100,000 years he had been trapped. He had learned the secrets of too many people. If he hadn't known about the secret of martial arts universities, he wouldn't have been able to tell that this old man had betrayed Yang Kai in that short period of time. Of course, Lin Yu was too lazy to explain. Yang Mu and the taciturn Zhuang Tiangang already knew how terrifying the sect master behind Yang Kai was. That was enough. Arrange for their accommodations. After Lin Yu finished speaking, he took away Wu Da's storage ring and returned to his palace. Clean up the corpses. Don't let anyone from Sword Emperor's sect find them. Yes. The three of them responded. Closing the door and opening the storage ring, Lin Yu saw 100 billion glory bought inside, as well as a large number of materials and secret arts. These are probably the things he got from selling Yang Kai. Lin Yu didn't care about these things. What he cared about was the jade token in his hand. There was a trace of bloodline power on the jade token. Did he want to inform Li Chun before he died? Lin Yu wiped away the last trace of Wu Da's aura and put away the jade token. Maybe at a critical moment, I can pretend to be Wu Da and trick Li Chun. The next day, Lin Yu got up in high spirits because he heard two pieces of news from Yang Kai. The first was that Xiong Wenlong knew that his wife was almost kidnapped. But Yu Xiao didn't tell Bai that the culprit was someone from Emperor Tong's sect. After all, she had no evidence. Yang Mu reported that Xiong Wenlong didn't know who did it. so he could only bring it to Sword Emperor Sec's Xiao Wushuang. Lin Yu couldn't help but laugh. Xiao Wushuang won't deal with it. Taking a deep breath, Yang Kai cast a look of admiration. Sect Master's foresight is really amazing. Xiao Wushuang insisted that Sword Emperor Sect didn't notice anything last night. More importantly, Xiong Wenlong's wife has returned safely, so it was easy for Xiao Wushuang to send her away. Lin Yu nodded and ate the breakfast that Yang Kai had prepared. He had already asked Qin Ji and the other women about Lin Yu's usual habits. Although they didn't need to eat mortal food at their current realm, Lin Yu still had the habit of eating breakfast and drinking tea. He knew that he couldn't be as fresh and elegant as Lin Yu. What's the other thing? Lin Yu asked. The other thing is another woman came to see Sect Master. Oh, Lin Yu raised his brow. Hua Jiu, a disciple of Divine Sense Emperor Sect, is waiting in the outer hall for an audience with Sect Master. Does Sect Master need this subordinate to tell you the information I have on Hua Jiu? No need. Lin Yu smiled. He was familiar with this woman, so he continued to eat unhurriedly. At this time, Lian Yin also got up. There was a lot of noise last night. Lian Yin glanced at Lin Yu angrily, obviously not sleeping well. Lin Yu raised his head and looked at one of the three beauties of Zither Emperor Sect in front of him. It was a little noisy. Your skin is a lot worse today. Saying so, he continued to eat. If I hadn't seen you solve it yourself, I wouldn't have been able to help myself last night. Lian Yin coldly snorted and sat down next to Lin Yu. Lin Yu didn't explain. She was a smart person and wouldn't ask what happened last night. Lian Yin happened to see Yang Kai sitting next to her. Senior Yang is also here? Yes, Seventh Highness, Yang Kai politely bowed. He was secretly envious in his heart. The women around Sect Master really changed all the time. Unfortunately, he knew that Sect Master still liked men, such as Zither Emperor Sec's Sixth Highness. The two exchanged a few awkward pleasantries. Lin Yu didn't like to get involved in this kind of small talk. When it came to women, he preferred to get to know them directly instead of beating around the bush. After Lin Yu finished his breakfast slowly, Yi Zichen looked at him. After wiping his hands and mouth clean, he beckoned to Lin Yu. Call that person in. Yes. Yang Kai walked out of the outer hall, and soon a woman wearing an emerald green embroidered gauze dress walked in with light steps. Her appearance was excellent, but unfortunately, she was still a little inferior to Lian Yin, who was next to Lin Yu. However, the coexistence of charm and purity in her temperament was enough for this woman to steal the souls of men in front of her. Divine Sense Emperor Sec's Hua Jiu greets Sir Zither Sec's Imperial Teacher. Chapter 402. Hua Jiu cupped her fists respectfully, not showing any impatience from waiting for so long. This woman is really good. In the distance, Yang Kai couldn't help but take a few more glances. Yang Kai didn't deliberately avoid these visitors. Although he was worried that Li Chen's people would recognize him, with his current appearance, no one in the Sword Emperor Sect except for Li Chen's generation could recognize him. This reminded him of the first sword of the Emperor Sect. I wonder if this woman will become the Sect Master's next woman. Yang Kai thought to himself, but in Lin Yu's opinion, Hua Jiu's performance was naturally good, but she couldn't hide anything from him. Since the first disciple of the Divine Sense Emperor Sect's Taoist M.O. came in person, the Phoenix must have a treasure. Speak. Lin Yu directly pointed out the key point. Hua Jiu had never heard of Lin Yu before, but Lin Yu's first sentence was to mention his master, which surprised her. She thought that she would have to say a few polite words, but she didn't expect this young man, who looked to be 15 or 16 years old, to be so straightforward. With Imperial Teacher's eyes in front of me, I won't beat around the bush. Jiu does have something to ask of you. Hua Jiu smiled brightly. I hope Imperial Teacher can cooperate with my Divine Sense Emperor Sect to take first place in the Sword Dao Conference. As soon as these words came out, Lian Yin and Yang Kai's expressions changed slightly. Only Lin Yu still looked calm. It's not difficult, continue. Hua Jiu narrowed her beautiful eyes. It was the first time she had seen such a confident young man. She was a few years older than Lin Yu, but for someone who won against the Sword Emperor Sect in the Sword Dao, It could be said that he had no chance at all if he didn't cooperate with others. But this kid actually said it wasn't difficult. I'm relieved that Imperial Teacher is so confident. Hua Jiyu's expression flashed with a trace of displeasure towards Lin Yu's arrogance. But she hid it so well that outsiders couldn't see it at all. I believe the Imperial Preceptor already knows that the Sword Emperor sect is holding this Sword Dao meet to give Xiao Wushuang a chance to suppress the younger generation of the Emperor's sect. In terms of Sword Dao, none of U.S. outsiders can surpass Xiao Wushuang. When Hua Jiyu spoke, it was as if the confidence that Lin Yu had just displayed had made her tone a little arrogant. This was a woman who didn't like to be oppressed. However, we are here because the Sword Emperor's sect gave us the opportunity to comprehend the Tao at the Broken Sword Cliff. The winner of the Sword Principal meet can go to the Broken Sword Cliff alone to comprehend the Tao. Hua Jiyu glanced at Lin Yu. Imperial Advisor, you're only at the Grand Supreme stage. You won't be able to gain anything from the Broken Sword Cliff. Why don't you help me get first place? Once I enter the Broken Sword Cliff, I'll be able to give you satisfactory conditions. When Lian Yin and Kai Yang heard these words, they couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. The Broken Sword Cliff may not be useless to our Imperial Advisor. Lian Yin glanced at Hua Jiyu. You're not the only one at the Law Realm. This queen is also at the Law Realm, so Miss Hua doesn't need to feel superior. She had clearly heard the conversation between Hua Jiyu and Lin Yu. When she mentioned the realm, she showed a hint of contempt. Envoy, you've misunderstood. Hua Jiyu smiled faintly. With Envoy here, how can Jiyu feel superior? However, what I said is also the truth. The reward for comprehending the Broken Sword Cliff won't be of much benefit to Imperial Advisor. She glanced at Lian Yin and Kai Yang and smiled. Could it be that Envoy wants to enter the Broken Sword Cliff yourself? I thought Envoy's cultivation was profound, but I didn't expect you to be confident of winning the Sword Principal meet. How could Lian Yin not hear the mockery in Hua Jiyu's tone? Hua Jiyu knew that her sword Dao wasn't good enough and was deliberately laughing at her. This queen doesn't care about the reward of the Broken Sword Cliff. Don't worry, I won't fight with you. Lian Yin said coldly. The purpose of this meeting was Lin Yu. Even if they could get the final reward, it would be for Lin Yu. After hearing this, Hua Jiyu smiled again and looked at Lin Yu. From a few words just now, she could tell that this young man in front of her was the one who made the decision. That was why Lian Yin didn't dare to say anything. She didn't want the reward of the Broken Sword Cliff, but she didn't say that Lin Yu didn't want it. What do you think, Imperial Advisor? Hua Jiyu asked again. It's not difficult to help you win. Lin Yu smiled. As soon as he said that, Hua Jiyu thought that she had gained something from this trip. Lian Yin and Yang Kai were in a bad mood. Bastard Lin Yu, you know that I'm being mocked by Hua Jiyu, but you still want to cooperate with her? Sect Master, didn't you say that you would help me? The two thought to themselves. It's good that Imperial Advisor is confident. Jiyu only wants the qualification to enter the Broken Sword Cliff. As for Imperial Advisor's conditions, you can name them. Hua Jiyu's light voice sounded. It had to be said that her pure and innocent temperament, coupled with her pleasant voice, was the best bargaining chip to negotiate with men. Unfortunately, she met Lin Yu. I can name my conditions? Lin Yu raised his brow. Yes, of course. It can't be higher than the value of the Broken Sword Cliff. Hua Jiyu emphasized. Good, that's my condition. Lin Yu stood up and looked at Hua Jiyu without any trace of politeness. After taking a few steps closer, he could already smell the unique feminine fragrance on the other party. Hua Jiyu didn't feel uncomfortable at all, even when Lin Yu walked around her and put his hand on her shoulder. But Hua Jiyu was still calm and composed. Instead, she made a shy sound. Imperial Advisor, you can't, there are outsiders here. This voice was enough to make a man's bones go numb. But Lin Yu sneered in his heart. Why don't we talk about it tonight? Smelly Lin Yu, do you need to be so impatient? Sect Master will definitely give up on me because of my beauty. Lian Yin and Yang Kai thought to themselves when they saw Lin Yu's actions. Hua Jiyu frowned and said, Imperial Advisor, you'd better tell me your conditions now. She seemed to be very interested in Lin Yu, but that was just a means to capture him. Under her clear eyes, Lin Yu could already tell that she despised his cultivation level. Accompany me for one night, and I'll help you when the sword Dao meet. Lin Yu smirked. As soon as he said that, Hua Jiyu immediately took a few steps back to avoid touching Lin Yu's body. Imperial advisor, please have some self-respect. Hua Jiyu is not the woman you think. Hua Jiyu's pretty face was slightly angry, and she looked pitiful. If there were outsiders there, they would definitely think that Lin Yu was bullying her. I only have one condition. If you agree, I'll help you. If you don't, then forget it. Lin Yu's gaze was calm. Hua Jiyu had seen many men who said such things. However, when they said that, their eyes were full of menace as if they wanted to eat her up. However, Lin Yu gave her the feeling that he was giving her a chance to be favored by a superior. That feeling was very different from that of ordinary men. However, it made Hua Jiyu even angrier. He's just a piece of trash of the Grand Supreme realm. Where did he get his confidence from? Hua Jiyu cursed in her heart. What she wanted to rely on was Lin Yu's identity and the help of the people from the Zither Emperor's sect behind Lin Yu. As for Lin Yu's combat power, to be honest, she didn't think much of it. Chapter 403. Then forget it. Imperial teacher, you think too highly of yourself. Hua Jiyu's tone changed. She was no longer as polite as before. Are you looking down on me? Lin Yu remained calm. Jiyu naturally thinks highly of the identity of the Zither Emperor's sect's imperial teacher. She glanced at Lian Yin and Yang Kai. These two were also in the law realm. One was a famous black list emissary. The other gave her the feeling that he was definitely a powerful sword cultivator. She was interested in these two. However, even though I have the identity of imperial teacher, my own strength still needs to be improved. After saying that, Hua Jiyu turned around and prepared to leave. She happened to pass by Lin Yu and whispered in front of him, "If you have the strength of the law realm, this lady wouldn't mind exchanging a night with you for the fortune of Broken Sword Cliff. Unfortunately, you don't, and you're not worthy." After saying that, she swept past Lin Yu and left the guest hall. What did she say? Lianin stood up and looked in the direction Hua Jiyu left with a displeased expression. I know you deliberately angered her, but Hua Jiyu is not a kind person. I know her very well. Lin Yu smiled confidently. What did she say? Do you really want to hear it? Lianin shook her head. It must be some unpleasant words. Don't take it to heart. Yang Kai also walked over. The people of the Divine Will Emperor sect are as arrogant and domineering as Emperor Tong. Sect Master, I will fight with all my strength in this Sword Dao conference. Don't worry. Lin Yu spread his hands and looked in the direction Hua Jiyu left. The game has just begun. I originally wanted you to go up, but because of Hua Jiyu, I decided to go up and play first. You can go up in the final battle. Perhaps the effect will be better. Seeing Lin Yu's expression, Yang Kai knew that there would be a good show to watch. The sect master's strategy had always been invincible. Subordinate will continue to inquire with Yang Mu and Zhuang Tiangang. Yang Kai cupped his fists and left. Only Lian Yin and Lin Yu were left outside the palace. Actually, if we had the help of the Divine Will Emperor Gate, our chances of winning would be higher. Lian Yin suddenly said, the Imperial Preceptor is not a person who acts on impulse. Why would you deliberately anger Hua Jiyu and make her leave? Staring at the little beauty's eyes, Lin Yu smiled faintly and said, because you don't like her. When Lian Yin heard this, she couldn't help but feel an electric shock in her heart. You rejected her because of me? Lian Yin asked when she saw Lin Yu turning around to stroll around. Of course not. Lin Yu suddenly felt like a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. Lian Yin's footsteps paused as she cursed Lin Yu in her heart. However, the latter immediately explained, Hua Jiyu is too utilitarian and has no bottom line. I thought you men only know how to think with your bottom and only see the pure side of that woman. Lian Yin said unhappily. Do I look like that kind of man? Lin Yu said calmly. You don't look like it. You are. Lian Yin snorted and left the Zither Emperor sect. Her mood seemed to have improved. Lin Yu couldn't help but laugh. He stopped and looked at Lian Yin. It seems that you know me very well. This sentence seemed to be teasing, but for some reason, Lian Yin's heart tightened. For example, Lin Yu saw her nervousness. For example, your secret. I have no secrets. Lianine turned her face away, no longer looking at Lin Yu. You should first think about how to deal with the divine will Emperor's sect. If Hua Ji wants to target you, she won't be the only one. I know. Lin Yu shrugged. You know? Lianine asked in surprise. Not many people know about this. Is the Imperial Preceptor sure you know what I'm talking about? Azura, Emperor's sect. Lin Yu glanced at her. Mo Lian Yuni's old flame. Pucci. Lianine couldn't help but be surprised and amused. The Imperial Preceptor is really amazing. You even know about this. The two of them were just about to go out for a walk. However, they were stopped by Mo Shui. Imperial Preceptor, Seventh Highness. Master Xiao Wushuang has specially set up a welcoming party. Please follow me. Mo Shui brought more than 10 people. It seemed like they were welcoming Lin Yu. However, it seemed to be threatening. Lian Yin felt uncomfortable, and Lin Yu was well aware of this. Xiao Wushuang's disciple was arrogant and probably still held a grudge because of what happened last night. It seemed that he had to take some time to deal with it. The two of them followed Mo Shui to a huge and luxurious palace. As soon as they entered, they saw that the people from the other emperor's sects had also arrived. Master, the guests are all here. Mo Shui arranged for Lin Yu and Seventh Highness to sit at the end. Then he bowed to the middle-aged man on the golden chair in the main hall. This person was the man in the forest last night, and also the next successor of the sword envoy, Xiao Wushuang. Ha! I'm deeply honored to have all of you present at this sword down meet. Xiao Wushuang raised his wine glass. He sat on the host's seat and looked down. On behalf of the Sword Emperor sect, I propose a toast to all of you. Everyone raised their glasses at the same time. The seat closest to Xiao Wushuang was occupied by the people from the Divine Will Emperor sect and the Tang Emperor sect. The next group was occupied by the people from the Shura Emperor sect and the Medicine Emperor sect. This was the first immortal of the Medicine Emperor sect, Yu Xiao. He casually held his wine glass and looked at Mo Lian Yuni from time to time. He was the son of Mo Lian II, one of the 3 great generals of the Shura Emperor sect. He was extremely handsome, and his figure was 80% similar to Lin Yu's. Mo Lian Yuni was also absent-minded towards Xiao Wushuang. Instead, he raised his eyebrows at Yu Xiao from time to time. The last seat was occupied by the Zither Emperor sect, represented by Lin Yu. Opposite him sat Xiong Wenlong and Bai Bai. Xiong Wenlong stared at the first seat where young Master Sheng Su was. That bastard must have kidnapped you. He whispered to Bai Bai. Husband, those 8 people do look like the people from the Tang Emperor sect, but we can't act rashly without evidence. Hearing Bai Bai's words, Xiong Wenlong had no choice but to suppress his anger. On the other hand, Lin Yu didn't even pick up his wine glass. He was rather interested in Yu Xiao and Mo Lian Yuni. He downed his glass. Xiao Wushuang sized up the people below. Yu Xiao, young Master Sheng Su, and Hua Ji were all experts of the second firmament of the laws. Mo Lian Yuni had also just stepped into the second firmament. As for Xiong Wenlong, he was only at the first firmament, so Xiao Wushuang didn't take him seriously. However, the one Xiao Wushuang didn't take seriously was Lin Yu, who was at the Grand Supreme Realm. I thought that His Highness the 7th Prince would personally participate in the Sword Dao meet, but I didn't expect the Zither Emperor sect to inform me that it was this young Imperial Preceptor. Xiao Wushuang looked at Lin Yu and said, I heard that Imperial Preceptor is only 16 years old. He's really a young hero. He glanced at the other men and continued, We're in our 30s. It seems that we can't keep up with the times. As soon as he said that, young Master Sheng Su, Mo Lian Yuni, Xiong Wenlong, and the others immediately looked at Lin Yu. Chapter 404. Facing these gazes, Lin Yu smiled. How could he not hear Xiao Wushuang's flattery? But Lin Yu didn't say anything. At this time, whether it was humble or arrogant, they were all wrong. I heard that the new imperial teacher of the Zither Emperor sect is extremely young, but I didn't expect him to be less than 20 years old. Although the imperial teacher is only at the supreme realm, he must be very powerful in other aspects. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to sit in this position. Mo Lian Yuni and young Master Sheng Su spoke one after another. Although their tone sounded polite, but it was obvious that they were still testing Lin Yu's strength. After all, Lin Yu was only at the Supreme Realm, which was not in line with his identity. Only Yang Kai, who had his head lowered, and the Seventh Highness, Lien Yin, who was prepared to speak up for Lin Yu, knew how strong Lin Yu was. Imperial Teacher is a young hero. Jiu only thinks that young Master Xiao Wushuang, young Master Sheng Su, and young Master Mo Lien are the outstanding talents of the younger generation. Before Lien Yin could speak, Hua Jiu's voice came from the divine while Emperor's Sect seats. This voice was weak and boneless, causing men to feel numb when they heard it. Everyone's gaze moved away from Lin Yu and landed on Hua Jiu. The latter's beautiful eyes stared straight at Lin Yu and continued, "Seeing the Imperial Teacher today, I know that there is always someone better." Everyone present was the future successor of the Emperor's Sect. These people had grown up with a sense of superiority since they were young and treated others with arrogance. How could they allow a teenager to ride on their heads? When Hua Jiu finished speaking, not only young Master Sheng Su and Mo Lien Yuni, even Xiao Wushuang, who was seated at the top, frowned. A trace of sharpness flashed across his eyes. A woman's provocation to a man was much more effective than Xiao Wushuang's own attempt to kill Lin Yu. Jiu thinks that this young imperial teacher of the Zither Emperor's Sect is stronger than us. The one who spoke was not Xiao Wushuang, but Mo Lien Yuni of the Azura Emperor's Sect. Just as Lin Yu had said, this person and Hua Jiu had an unusual relationship. Hearing Hua Jiu praise other men, it was naturally much more grating. Of course, for young Master Lin to be able to become the imperial advisor of the Zither Emperor at such a young age, surpassing everyone present in the future, is only a matter of time. Hua Jiu clearly knew that the atmosphere was tense, and Mo Lien Yuni's face already revealed a trace of hostility. However, not only did she not stop praising Lin Yu, but she also continued to praise Lin Yu to the skies. "This woman is so vicious," Yang Kai whispered from behind Lin Yu. "She must want to take revenge for being rejected by Sect Master this morning." On the other side, Lien Yin smiled faintly and said, "Miss Hua is so certain that our state preceptor's future will be stronger than the others. Is it because you have already understood all the men here before you can make such a confident comparison?" Her voice was light and quick, coupled with Lien Yin's completely uncaring appearance. Hua Jiu saw this and couldn't help but become slightly angry. There was a trap in Lien Yin's words. How could Hua Jiu not see it? "You are all well-known figures in the Emperor's Gate Starfield. Jieshui has heard about you from Master countless times. Why do you need to deliberately learn more?" She immediately drew a clear line between them. Otherwise, if Lien Yin continued to speak, wouldn't it be obvious that she had understood these men in private? Seven Highness is wrong. Jiu is very good at judging men. If she says Lin Yu is strong, then Lin Yu is strong. Mo Lien Yuni immediately said. These words made Hua Jiu curse in her heart. She felt that something was wrong. She knew that Mo Lien Yuni was jealous. As the state preceptor, young Master Lin is naturally the strongest, Hua Jiu said with a smile on her pretty face. Mo Lien Yuni immediately looked at Lin Yu. This one is very curious. How strong is this person who can make Hua Jiu admire him so much? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone could smell the smell of gunpowder in the air. It just so happens that everyone is at the banquet today. Mo Lien Yuni stood up and cupped his fist to Lin Yu with a smile. Why don't we let the state preceptor show us his strength? In his seat, Xiao Wushuang smiled. Although he liked to see these battles between the Emperor's sects, as the host, he still reminded them. Young Master Mo Lien, today is the day that the Sword Emperor's sect welcomes everyone. It's better not to use force. Although he said this, he understood Mo Lien Yuni's personality. Since Hua Jiu worshipped Lin Yu so much, he naturally wouldn't stop. Xiao Wushuang was just putting on an act. That's easy. I heard that the people of the Zither Emperor's sect have extremely high attainments in the Zither Dao. The state preceptor's Zither Dao must also be extremely good. When Mo Lien Yuni saw Hua Jiu looking at Lin Yu affectionately, he couldn't help but secretly call her a slut. But he naturally wouldn't do anything to Huajiu. Instead, he was hostile to Lin Yu, who had been silent all this time. Lin Yu felt that he was being shot while lying down. He had always been a low-key person and had even established the low-key sect with this purpose. But in the end, someone still forced him to make a move. How do you want to play? Speak. Lin Yu raised his eyebrows. Mo Yin Uni chuckled. It's simple. I also like to play the flute. Why don't you and I play the zither and flute together to liven things up for everyone? These words sounded extremely polite. In the eyes of others, the so-called ensemble was also clear that Mo Yin Uni had left a way out for himself. Sure, Lin Yu nodded. Xiao Wushuang didn't say much and immediately ordered someone to bring a zither and a flute. Young Master Zhao's movements are really fast. Lin Yu said to Xiao Wushuang with a smile that was not a smile. The latter smiled faintly and said, State Preceptor, please don't blame me. I can't wait to see the State Preceptor's zither Dao. After saying that, he stretched out his hand towards the zither. State Preceptor, please. On the other side, Mo Yin Uni deliberately walked in front of Yu Xiao with a flute in his hand. Are you really the person from last night? Yu Xiao asked in a low voice. Her voice was extremely soft, and only Mo Yin Uni and Lin Yu heard it. It's me. At that time, I was in a hurry and didn't recognize you. I hope Miss Yu won't blame me. Mo Yin Uni replied with a smile. Although he didn't know who Yu Xiao was looking for, how could Yu Xiao's curiosity and anticipation for that person be hidden from Mo Yin Uni, a veteran in love? So when the two of them arrived at the banquet, Yu Xiao probed him for the first time. Mo Yin Uni immediately admitted it. Moreover, his words were watertight, and he didn't give himself away at all. Yu Xiao frowned. She could only confirm that Mo Yin Uni's figure was very similar to the person who saved her last night. Lin Yu's lips curled up, and he felt that it was funny. This guy even pretended to be him? State Preceptor, please. After saying that, Mo Yin Uni immediately placed his flute in front of him and began to play. The sound of the flute spread out, and the rest of the people in the palace heard the melodious and unruly sound. I didn't expect young Master Mo Yin to not only be handsome and have a high cultivation, but he's also so good at playing the flute. Chapter 405. Xiao Wushuang's praise could be heard. Below, Yu Xiao saw Mo Yin Uni's carefree appearance. In the sound of the flute, Mo Yin Uni had a kind of hazy handsomeness, giving Yu Xiao an illusion. It should be him. Yu Xiao admired the sound of the flute and couldn't help but laugh. It's nice. On the other side, Lin Yu had yet to start playing the zither. Not only Yu Xiao, but even Xiong Wenlong's wife, Bai, was only looking at Lin Yu. How could they remember that there was still Lin Yu beside them? Under Mo Yin Uni's light, you're just so. Huajiu laughed at Lin Yu in her heart. Lin Yu's conceited appearance in the morning still made her hate him. Young Master Lin, hurry up and play. I can't wait any longer. Huajiu shouted from afar. Only then did everyone notice Lin Yu. Unfortunately, under Mo Yin Uni's flute sound, Lin Yu had long been overshadowed. That kid doesn't seem to be very powerful. Could it be that he was scared by Mo Yin Uni? The people of the Zither Emperor's clan don't even have the courage to play the zither? This is too embarrassing. The people of the other emperor's clans laughed in their hearts. Lin Yu sighed softly and pressed his slender fingers on the zither. He's making his move. Lin Yin's face was filled with anticipation. Others didn't know how powerful Lin Yu's zither Dao was, but she had competed with Lin Yu twice and lost both times. How could she not know? Clang. The moment Lin Yu's first zither sound came out, everyone's attention was drawn back from the flute sound. Clang, clang. The sound of the zither surrounded the main hall. Lin Yu's fingers turned into blurry afterimages, and the sound of the zither spread out in all directions. Lingering song? Lin Yin immediately recognized that Lin Yu was playing the lingering song that the Zither Emperor's clan played every day. However, at this moment, in Lin Yu's hands, the lingering song contained a majestic aura of the great Tao. At this moment, Mo Yin Yuni's flute sound couldn't help but become chaotic. Damn it! He focused his mind. Lin Yu's Guqin music was too strong, and he subconsciously matched it with the flute. Turn back. Mo Yin Yun channeled his cultivation into the sound of the flute, and a wall of flute chi formed around him. This wall blocked Lin Yu's zither music. Why is my body heating up when I hear this zither music? Yu Xiao Xiao, Hua Jiyu, and Bai all felt their body temperature being adjusted by Lin Yu's music. Only Lianin was a bit better. After all, she was already used to this lingering zither music. Why is the Guqin Dao contained in his Guqin melody so strong? Lianin didn't understand, but she was certain that Lin Yu's zither Dao was much stronger than it had been during their battle. This kid is pretty amazing. Xiao Wushuang narrowed his eyes and looked towards Yu Xiao Xiao's direction. There's music but no dance. It's still a bit lacking. Below, young noble Sheng Su clapped his hands. Young noble Wushuang is right. I heard that the Alchemy Emperor's prime immortal is good at dancing. I wonder if we can have the honor of seeing her dance today. Young Miss, Mo Yin Yuni and Lin Yu's music has begun to clash. It's very dangerous to go up now. Yeah, we shouldn't get involved. A follower of the Alchemy Emperor advised in a low voice. However, Yu Xiaoxiao's expression was a bit worried. This was because Mo Yin Yuni's flute was no longer as melodious as before. They could only surround Mo Yin Yuni to block Lin Yu's music. He's my savior. Yu Xiaoxiao remembered the bastard who broke her shoulder strap last night and gritted her teeth as she stood up. Okay, I'll play with you guys. Having said that, Yu Xiaoxiao jumped between Mo Yin Yuni and Lin Yu in her white dress. The chiffon of her dress began to spin, transforming into a graceful figure that was as graceful as a swimming dragon, immediately attracting everyone's attention. Mo Yin Yuni felt that his music, which was suppressed by Lin Yu's flute, was greatly alleviated. This was because Yu Xiaoxiao, intentionally or otherwise, blocked a lot of Lin Yu's zither Dao attacks for him. His music is so domineering. Yu Xiaoxiao couldn't hold on for much longer. She began to show a troubled expression in front of Lin Yu's music. He didn't use his cultivation. Only the Grand Dao is contained in his music. How can it shake my body like this? Yu Xiaoxiao couldn't help but look at Lin Yu a few more times. No, I can't let you hurt my savior, she thought to herself as she took a few steps forward. She wanted to use her body to block the music. At the same time, Mo Yin Yuni saw that Lin Yu's suppression on him had dissipated. He immediately gathered his flute music, and a majestic aura rumbled towards Lin Yu. On the other side, Lin Yu felt helpless and secretly cursed Yu Xiaoxiao for being an idiot. If she continued to play, Yu Xiaoxiao would probably be seriously injured by Zither Dao. Lin Yu thought that he was already targeted by the Divine Emperor Gate and Azura Emperor Gate. Xiao Wushuang was also destined to be his enemy. If he injured the number 1 immortal of the Medicine Emperor Gate, it would affect his chances of obtaining the Emperor's Sword. Forget it. Thinking of this, Lin Yu stopped playing the Guqin. However, Mo Yin Yuni's flute attack came at the same time. Without the Zither Dao suppression, the flute directly blasted towards Lin Yu and Yu Xiaoxiao. With Lin Yu at the back, Yu Xiaoxiao felt a strong force pushing her from behind. She immediately lost her balance and flew towards Lin Yu. Plop! Ah! Yu Xiaoxiao crashed into Lin Yu's arms. Damn it! Mo Yin Yuni cursed. He did not injure Lin Yu, and actually pushed the beauty that was about to be in his hands to Lin Yu. Hua Jiyu, Lianin, young master Sheng Su, Xiao Wushuang, and Xiong Wenlong. Looking at the scene of Lin Yu and Yu Xiaoxiao sticking together, they were stunned for a long time. It seems to be a lot bigger than I remember. Lin Yu moved his fingers. Bastard, you can't touch there. Yu Xiaoxiao's delicate voice sounded. Her fragrant hair brushed past Lin Yu's cheek as she stood up. However, Mo Yin Yuni could clearly see the redness on her face. You dare to touch the women I like, and 2 of them at that. First Hua Jiyu, then Yu Xiaoxiao. Mo Yin Yuni glared at Lin Yu with murderous intent. Don't tell anyone about the places you touched. Otherwise, I'll kill you. You Xiao warned Lin Yu. She lowered her head and returned to her seat. She buried her head in the tea and did not dare to look at the others. Lin Yu did not comment on Yu Xiao's embarrassing appearance and stood up. The state preceptor's Guqin Dao is indeed powerful. Xiao Wushuang clapped his hands and said to him, "O Lin Yuni, young Master Yuni's flute playing is also very powerful. If it wasn't for Fairy Yu, the state preceptor would not be able to withstand it." His words seemed to have given a conclusion to this hidden battle. Xiao Wushuang's flute playing was slightly better than Lin Yu's Guqin Dao. At the same time, Xiao Wushuang mentioned Yu Xiao to deepen the grudge in these people's hearts. Chapter 406. However, Lin Yuni wasn't happy at all, because anyone with a discerning eye could see that he had lost this battle. He couldn't resist Lin Yu's zither music. If it weren't for Yu Xiao, he would have been beaten up the entire time. Only Lin Yu didn't care about this and returned to his seat. I've invited everyone here today not only to welcome you, but also to choose the order of battle for tomorrow's sword down meet. Xiao Wushuang's voice sounded again. Everyone regained their senses from the subtle atmosphere just now. Xiao Wushuang continued. If you've heard from the seniors in the sect, you must know that the Sword Emperor's sect's sword down meet will be held over 2 days. On the first day, the top 4 will be selected, and on the second day, the winner will be selected. He looked down and said with a proud tone, as mentioned before, the winner of the meet will get the opportunity to comprehend at the Broken Sword Cliff of the Sword Emperor's sect. You may have heard of the person who comprehended at the Sword Emperor's sect last time. Is it young Master Wushuang's master, the current Sword Emperor's sect's sword envoy, Senior Li Chun? Young Master Sheng Su cupped his fists and asked, especially when he mentioned Li Chun. Even his tone was full of admiration. That's right. Xiao Wushuang nodded and smiled. Back then, Master defeated the Emperor's sect's first sword envoy, Yang Kai, to obtain the position of sword envoy. In the last seat below, a trace of anger flashed across Yang Kai's face. However, he immediately suppressed this anger. Seeing this, Lin Yu naturally understood his grievance at the moment. My master in the Divine Sense Emperor sect has also heard of Yang Kai's name, especially the title of Emperor sect's first sword. 20 years ago, it could be said that he shocked the Emperor sect's star field. In the chief seat, Hua Jiyu recovered from her anger towards Lin Yu and immediately replied to Xiao Wushuang, who was sitting in the upper seat. It's just a flash in the pan. Lin Yuni immediately laughed. Ever since the Emperor's sect's first sword lost the position of sword envoy, I heard that he left the Emperor's sect and disappeared without a trace. Where is the temperament of a master? Hearing this, Xiao Wushuang just smiled. As a member of the Sword Emperor's sect, he didn't object to this sentence, which meant that he agreed. The title of Emperor Gate's #1 sword is indeed all bark and no bite. Young Master Sheng Su chimed in with a smile. On the contrary, young Master Wushuang's honored master is still a top-notch figure of our Emperor Gate after 20 years. Compared to Yang Kai, who knows how many times stronger. In the main hall, Xiao Wushuang slammed his palm heavily, and the table in front of him shattered into pieces. Everyone was stunned and looked over, only to hear Xiao Wushuang angrily say, "How can that waste Kai Yang be compared to honored master? Are you looking down on my master by comparing him to my sect's sword emissary?" Everyone could hear the disdain in Xiao Wushuang's voice towards Yang Kai. I misspoke. Kai Yang really doesn't even have the qualifications to be compared to Senior Li Chun. Seeing that the other party was enraged, young Master Sheng Su still bowed apologetically. Seeing this, Lin Yun changed the topic at the same time. Kai Yang is indeed not worthy, but the people of the Emperor Gate were also curious. The reputation of the Emperor Gate's #1 sword is not small. 20 years ago, Kai Yang challenged more than 30 Grand Supreme stage masters of the Emperor Gate with his unbreakable stage cultivation and never lost. That's why he has the title of Emperor Gate's #1 sword, Unbreakable Grand Supreme. Unfortunately, after he lost to Senior Li Chun, he disappeared without a trace. We are also extremely curious about this. Xiao Wushuang's expression became more and more unhappy, because from what these people said, it sounded like they were extremely respectful towards his honored master. However, every sentence was related to Emperor Gate's #1 sword, Kai Yang. Losers have no reason to stay in my sword Emperor Gate. As for that Kai Yang, no matter how amazing he was at the beginning, he was still defeated by honored master. Xiao Wushuang sneered and continued. Kai Yang disappeared for more than 20 years. Even I was only 10 years old at that time, and I have long forgotten his appearance. Perhaps he died outside after leaving the Emperor Gate. Moreover, I heard Honor Master mention it. Back then, when Kai Yang challenged other Grand Supreme Realm cultivators of the Emperor Gate, Kai Yang did not take the life of the loser in all of his victories. Perhaps there's a lot of exaggeration in this matter. The title of Emperor Gate's #1 sword does not live up to its name. Therefore, everyone should pay more attention to the other juniors of my sword Emperor Gate. When the others below heard Xiao Wushuang's attitude, they understood that he was unwilling to mention Kai Yang. After all, the title of Emperor Gate's #1 sword was still a legendary existence to them. Unfortunately, the legend had already become a legend. Now, he had been reduced to a situation where he was being belittled by Xiao Wushuang. The others only smiled at this. Only Kai Yang had clenched his fists tightly under the guest table. As he trembled in anger, his nails dug into his flesh, causing his palms to bleed red. However, Kai Yang did not care about the pain in his palms at all. Instead, Xiao Wushuang's words echoed in his mind. Losers have no reason to stay in my sword Emperor Gate. Perhaps there is a lot of exaggeration in this matter. The title of Emperor Gate's #1 sword does not live up to its name. Every sentence was like a sharp blade, chopping Kai Yang's past glory into pieces on a chopping board. Remember how you feel now. Lin Yu smiled faintly. His tone was still calm. However, this sentence, coupled with Lin Yu's calm expression, made Kai Yang shake. At this moment, Kai Yang let go of his hand, because to Kai Yang, this was already the greatest encouragement. The others continued to agree with Xiao Wushuang. Young Master Sheng Su smiled and said, if we were talking about the current Emperor Gate's younger generation, then it is none other than young Master Wushuang. Xiong Wenlong, who was sitting at the end of the table with Lin Yu, smiled disdainfully. Here, young Master Wushuang is powerful, but in our Ghost Gate, I'm afraid it is not your turn. After hearing this, Xiao Wushuang only sneered. Although it was a little embarrassing, he also understood that Xiong Wenlong was venting his anger at Xiao Wushuang's cold treatment of his wife's kidnapping last night. Mo Lianyuni also shook his head and smiled. Haha, young Master Wushuang is indeed the #1 person in the Sword Emperor Gate's younger generation, but only in the Sword Emperor Gate. He raised his eyebrows towards the end of the table, the sharpness in his eyes obvious. Zither Emperor Gate's Imperial Tutor Lin Yu. I think he's the #1 person in the entire Emperor Gate Starfield. Hua Jiu, Xiao Wushuang, Xiong Wenlong, young Master Sheng Su, and the others looked at Lin Yu again, except for Xiong Wenlong, who nodded. Imperial Tutor's Zither Dao is indeed admirable. Xiong Wenlong recalled, a few days ago my honored master said that she met an extremely powerful Zither Dao young man during her experiential learning. He must be Imperial Tutor, right? The honored master he mentioned, if not Mei, one of the Ghost Gate's 4 great ghost generals. Who else could it be? Hearing Xiong Wenlong mention his honored master, the others also restrained some of their displeasure towards Lin Yu. I didn't expect Imperial Tutor to know the Ghost Gate's 4 great ghost generals. Hua Jiu smiled faintly, intending to test Lin Yu. Chapter 407. Lin Yu understood Xiong Wenlong's good intentions and replied, I understand what you mean, but I'm not the person your master is talking about. You got the wrong person. That's a pity. Xiong Wenlong sighed, but his eyes were full of admiration for Lin Yu. Hubby, is he really not? Bai asked softly. Xiong Wenlong shook his head and said, when I left the Ghoul clan, Master told me that she is a good friend in the Zither Emperor clan named Lin Yu. He's good at the Zither Dao, so I can't be wrong. Xiong Wenlong continued. However, He must have seen through my intentions and doesn't want me to help him. No wonder he's your master's friend. Hearing this, Bai couldn't help but look at Lin Yu. He's handsome and carefree. He's indeed a dragon among men. Xiong Wenlong nodded. Imperial Preceptor Lin is naturally extraordinary. Needless to say, I'm also looking forward to his exciting performance at the Swordao meet tomorrow. Xiao Wushuang said with a smile. Yu Xiao didn't dare to look at Lin Yu throughout, but she could tell that something was amiss. Hence, she said, there will be 7 of us participating in the first battle tomorrow. Young Master Wushuang, how are you going to distribute the spoils? Xiao Wushuang already had an excuse. I've already drawn lots for this matter in advance. He raised his hand, and Mo Shui, who was at the side, said with cupped fists, I'll explain the order of drawing lots for tomorrow's battle. Mo Shui waved his right hand, and the obsidian energy seemed to have materialized, and a line of words appeared in the hall. Mr. Shang Su of the Tang Emperor clan versus Hua Jiyu of the Divine Will Emperor clan. On the first seat, Hua Jiyu smiled at Mr. Shang Su and thought to herself, had I known earlier that I wouldn't be able to go up against Lin Yu, I wouldn't have gone to him to cooperate in the first place. It's even easier to go up against a lecher like Shang Su. While Hua Jiyu thought to herself, Mr. Shang Su chuckled and said, Fairy Hua, please give me some pointers tomorrow. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Mo Shui continued to circulate his obsidian energy. The second line of words appeared. Yu Xiao of the Medicine Emperor clan versus Xiong Wenlong of the Ghoul clan. Seeing this, Yu Xiao cupped fists at the end of the hall and said, Please give me some pointers. Xiong Wenlong cupped his fists in response. Beside him, Bai had a strange expression on her face. Husband, her scent is the same as the person who saved me last night. Are you serious? Xiong Wenlong and the other man whispered to each other. Mo Yin Yuni's expression changed. Right now, his only opponents were the remaining 2 people, Xiao Wushuang and Lin Yu. In response, when Mo Yin Yuni looked at Xiao Wushuang, he saw that Xiao Wushuang's expression was calm. Could it be that he had absolute confidence in defeating me? Mo Yin Yuni was so angry that he looked at Lin Yu. It would have been better if he didn't look, but once he did, Mo Yin Yuni became even angrier. What's for dinner tonight? The food here is terrible. Mo Yin Yuni only saw that Lin Yu was even more unconcerned than Xiao Wushuang. She even talked about eating with the 7th prince beside her. F***CK. This person doesn't respect me at all. Mo Yin Yuni secretly swore that if he were to go against Lin Yu, he would definitely make him wish he was dead. Mo Shui looked at Lin Yu and sneered. As he circulated his glory chi, the third line of battle list appeared. Shura Emperor Sex Mo Yin Yuni versus Zither Emperor Sex Lin Yu. Very good. Mo Yin Yuni couldn't help but smile. In terms of Zither Dao, he was indeed not as good as Lin Yu. However, in terms of combat power, Lin Yu was only in the Grand Supreme realm. How could he be a match for him? In tomorrow's battle, I look forward to seeing Imperial Advisor Lin's divine skill. Mo Yin Yuni cupped his fists and smiled. Mo Shui nodded at the same time. The Sword Emperor sect will draw lots to choose the battle list. If there are no problems with the list, we will start the battle tomorrow. The Shura Emperor sect has no problems. Mo Yin Yuni was the first to reply. Lin Yu was the weakest person present, so Mo Yin Yuni was the one who benefited the most from the first battle. Xiao Wushuang naturally saw this and smiled silently. However, Yu Xiao, Xiong Wenlong, and the others couldn't help but look at each other. They all sensed that something was amiss. If that's the case, who is young Master Wushuang's opponent? Xiong Wenlong asked first. Not only him, but young Master Shang Su, Hua Jiyu, and the others were all geniuses of the younger generation. How could they not see it? However, with their intelligence, even if they could see that Xiao Wushuang's arrangement was unfair, they wouldn't say it out loud. In their opinion, only a fool like Xiong Wenlong would stand up for him. Among the 7 people, only 3 battles can be arranged. This is a helpless decision. Xiao Wushuang shook his head and sighed, looking troubled. Xiong Wenlong snorted and said, Then why aren't I the one who automatically advanced to the second round? But you, Xiao Wushuang? Xiao Wushuang laughed loudly from his seat. He didn't want to pretend to be polite anymore. Haha, I'm confident that I can win the first battle. If the ghost sect isn't convinced, you can try. Hearing this, Xiong Wenlong slammed the table and flew into the air. Let's try then. Everyone knew that there was a good show to watch. They circulated their cultivation and formed lotchy walls to prevent themselves from being affected by the battle. Xiong Wenlong, this is the Sword Emperor sect. How dare you be impudent? Mo Shui pointed at Xiong Wenlong and said angrily. Back down. Xiao Wushuang stood up and sneered. Then come and try. Take this. Xiong Wenlong raised his hands, and dozens of yellow talismans burst out from his body. Immortal, God, Devil, Demon, Human, Avicii, Six Tao of Reincarnation. As the afterimages in his hands changed, the talismans around Xiong Wenlong burned. Terrifying sounds could be heard coming from the talisman. The talismans instantly formed a 30-meter giant. This giant broke through the roof of the palace and stomped down at Xiao Wushuang. Insignificant skill. Xiao Wushuang's right hand formed a claw. A sword hilt appeared in the void and was held in Xiao Wushuang's hand. Whoosh! The divine sword was unsheathed. Xiao Wushuang stared at Xiong Wenlong with a sharp gaze. Scarlet sword Qi soared into the sky. Blood sacrifice sword. Below, Yu Xiao Xiao, Hua Jiu, and the others squinted their eyes. Legend has it that this sword was made famous by Xiao Wushuang. It was born with a thirst for blood. Xiao Wushuang would always use blood sacrifice sword to drain his enemies of their vitality. It was extremely vicious. Lian Yin, who was next to Lin Yu, immediately said. However, Lin Yu did not even look at this weapon. If you want to win the Sword Dao meeting, you'll have to face Xiao Wushuang's blood sacrifice sword. Do you already have a countermeasure? Lian Yin asked again. Lin Yu smiled faintly. It's just a toy sword. He raised his eyebrows. What do you think, left envoy Yang? It's just the fourth stage of the Sword Dao. Yang Kai only said one sentence and continued to remain silent. With this sentence, Lin Yu nodded and smiled. It's enough. On the other side, inside Yu Xiao Xiao's storage ring, the rumbling thunder divine sword actually vibrated when the blood sacrifice sword was unsheathed. Yu Xiao Xiao felt the change in the rumbling thunder divine sword. It was a kind of collision between swords. She wanted to suppress it with her divine sense, but the rumbling thunder divine sword did not stop vibrating. If it's that guy from yesterday, he might be able to help you. Chapter 408. Yu Xiao Xiao recall how the thunderclap divine sword shone 100 times brighter in Lin Yu's hands last night. That was how she easily defeated the 8 elements beast-trapping array formed by the 4 experts of Emperor Tong's Gate. But now, with the rumbling thunder divine sword in her hand, Xiao Wushuang was no match for her just by releasing his sword energy. Perhaps only that guy can match Xiao Wushuang's attainments in the Sword Dao. Yu Xiao Xiao was certain that she didn't have the confidence to win against Xiao Wushuang in the Sword Dao. Xiong Wenlong, you won't be my match even if I give you another 10 years. Xiao Wushuang laughed and took a step forward, submerging himself into the blood sacrifice sword Qi. Man and sword as one. While everyone was still in shock, the sword Qi had already shot towards Xiong Wenlong's talisman incarnation. Xiao Wushuang. Xiong Wenlong gritted his teeth and fused his Dharma with the ghost sect's Dharma. The talisman incarnation grasped the Dharma and punched the sword Qi. Rumble. Under the attack, everyone saw Xiong Wenlong's talisman incarnation dissipate layer by layer. Change. But Xiong Wenlong's eyes burned with the flames of battle. He changed his technique again, and the scattered talismans seemed to have a mind of their own as they attacked Xiao Wushuang. Let's see how you block it. Countless talismans attacked Xiao Wushuang from all directions. This king said that this is just a small trick. Heartless sword intent. The corner of Xiao Wushuang's mouth curled up into a sneer. The sword Qi moved along with him. The first sword Qi that he had already won had scattered into countless small sword Qi at the same time. Break. So. Xiong Wenlong's eyes widened as he watched the rain-like sword chi collide with his talismans. The number of sword chi was even greater than his talismans. Oh no! Xiong Wenlong immediately retreated as his talismans exploded. He knew that he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. But the moment he retreated, Xiao Wushuang's killing intent appeared. He gripped the blood sacrifice sword tightly and appeared 3 feet away from Xiong Wenlong like a ghost when the talismans collided with the sword chi. He stabbed out with his sword. It's like master. Yang Kai's face was solemn. He also knew the relationship between Lin Yu and charm. Xiong Wenlong was charm's disciple, so it was impossible for Lin Yu to ignore him. Go! Lin Yu raised his eyebrows. Kai Yang immediately raised his hand, and in the instant he raised his arm, a similar burst of sword chi erupted. Clang! The sword chi swept across Xiao Wushuang's sword. Xiao Wushuang had no choice but to stop his killer move. He took a few steps back. He looked over with a sharp gaze. You are. He stared at Yang Kai solemnly. Who would have thought that Lin Yu was already extraordinary enough? However, he actually had such an expert by his side. Your sword Dao is very powerful. Xiao Wushuang's gaze fell on Kai Yang as he cupped his fists and smiled. Does your excellency also want to come out and spar? Yang Kai looked towards Lin Yu, knowing that now wasn't the time, so he didn't speak. Today, the Sword Emperor sect is welcoming guests. After witnessing young Master Wushuang's sword Dao, my subordinates are itching to test their skills. I hope you don't blame them. Lin Yu said with a smile, there's no need to spar today. If there's a chance in the future, I'll ask young Master Wushuang for advice. Hearing this, Xiao Wushuang sneered and glanced at Xiong Wenlong. The ghost sect's talisman Dao is indeed powerful. This one is also impressed. Xiong Wenlong snorted coldly. Since he had lost, he didn't have the face to continue arguing with Xiao Wushuang. He cupped his fist in the direction of Lin Yu and Kai Yang. Many thanks, Your Excellency. After saying that, he flicked his sleeves and left. Bai Bai also bowed towards Lin Yu before following him. Imperial Teacher Lin, I'm afraid that the ghost sect will owe you a favor this time. Xiao Wushuang couldn't be bothered with Xiong Wenlong and turned to Lin Yu. However, his gaze was even more fearful of Kai Yang, a true sword Dao expert. As long as he made a move, it was enough to shock others. Xiao Wushuang had already felt the strength of Kai Yang's sword Dao. It wasn't inferior to his. If this person were to make a move, he would become the #1 enemy of the Sword Dao Conference. Seeing that Lin Yu didn't reply, Xiao Wushuang also said to the others, presumably, none of you have any objections to making a move tomorrow. That's all for today. Everyone, please. He clearly displayed his authority as the host. Hearing the meaning of asking the guests to leave, the others also left one after another. However, when Huaji left, she couldn't help but glance at Lin Yu. Her bright eyes were still filled with hatred towards Lin Yu. Clearly, she was very unhappy that she didn't make a fool of Lin Yu this time. That woman has her eyes on you. She might target you at the Sword Dao Conference tomorrow. Lian Yin said softly. It doesn't matter. Lin Yu shrugged. The others left, and he didn't want to stay any longer. The 3 of them stood up and were about to leave. Xiao Wushuang stopped Kai Yang. Wait. Xiao Wushuang smiled. May I know your name? He was obviously asking Yang Kai this question. I'm just a subordinate of the Imperial Teacher. I'm afraid, young master, Xiao won't know my name. Kai Yang said softly. His words suppressed his anger towards Xiao Wushuang and his honored Master Li Chun. Let's go. Lin Yu was too lazy to pay attention to Xiao Wushuang and directly went around him. However, Xiao Wushuang only narrowed his eyes. He felt that Kai Yang also had such attainments in the Sword Dao. The Sword Emperor sect had always been very sensitive to Sword Dao experts in the Emperor sect star field. Why didn't he know of such an expert? Wait. Xiao Wushuang still wanted to say something. Get lost. However, Lin Yu's gaze made Xiao Wushuang feel his head explode for a moment. When he came back to his senses, Lin Yu and the others had already left. Honor Master, this Lin Yu is so arrogant. Does he really think our Sword Emperor sect is his Zither Emperor sect? Emo Shui immediately came forward. However, he noticed that his master seemed to have been frightened by someone. "Honored master, what's wrong?" Xiao Wushuang gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with killing intent. He lowered his head and looked at the traces of sword qi left by Kai Yang. "Lin Yu and that sword Dao expert are not simple." "Honored master, should I send someone to test Lin Yu again?" "Idiot," Xiao Wushuang said angrily. "He's not someone you can deal with. Let him play with Mo Lin Yun tomorrow. There's no rush." "Yes." Mo Shui nodded and bowed. He had been looking for an opportunity to mess with Lin Yu, but he never had the chance. The guest welcoming ceremony ended. Xiao Wushuang asked everyone to leave and went into seclusion. Today's battle made him a little more wary of Kai Yang. Fortunately, it was Lin Yu who made a move and not Kai Yang. Tomorrow, Mo Lin Yun, he would teach Lin Yu how to behave. Night fell again. After Mo Shui left the conference, he ran into Mo Lin Yun. To be precise, it was Mo Lin Yun who found him. "Young Master Mo, this one has been waiting for a long time." Mo Lin Yun smiled and cupped his fists. "Young Master Yun, Mo Shui also cupped his fists in surprise. Those who could appear at the Sword Dao conference were the best of the younger generation of the Emperor's sect. This Mo Lin Yun was even more famous for his extraordinary means. "Young Master Yun, what can I do for you?" "Huh." Mo Lin Yun, he stepped forward and patted Mo Shui's shoulder. "Young Master Mo is really straightforward. This one will not beat around the bush. I wonder if young Master Mo can help this one test someone?" Chapter 409. Pest. Mo Shui narrowed his eyes and vaguely understood what Mo Lin Yun meant. "Could it be that you wanted to test Lin Yu?" Mo Lin Yun nodded in satisfaction. "Young Master Mo is indeed Xiao Wushuang's proudest disciple." "That's right. I want you to test Lin Yu for me." "Haha. I didn't expect young Master Yun to have such a lack of confidence when facing a mid-stage Grand Supreme Realm kid." Mo Shui smiled mockingly. This was the Sword Emperor's sect. Although Mo Lin Yun and the others were on the same level as his master, he didn't need to give them too much face. Mo Lin Yun didn't look angry at all. He only sighed. "Of course I have 100% confidence in Lin Yu. But young master, Mo must have seen the sword expert beside Lin Yu." A cold light flashed in his eyes as he said with a faint smile, "I'm afraid that even young Master Mo's master might not be a match for him in terms of swordsmanship. I'm a little worried that Lin Yu has such a powerful person around him." "What a joke." Mo Shui snorted angrily. In the Emperor's sect, other than the Sword Emperor's sect's master and Grand Master Li Chun, no one can surpass master in sword principle. However, this lowly one saw that matter very clearly earlier. That old bastard blocked your master's attack, and even forced him to retreat. Mo Lin Yun didn't give up and continued to provoke Mo Shui. "I understand young Master Mo's intention to protect him, but it's better to be realistic in martial arts. Xiao Wushuang is indeed inferior to that person in sword principle. Young Master Yun, you don't have to provoke me anymore." Mo Shui sneered at Mo Lin Yun. "No matter how strong that person's sword principle is, the Sword Emperor's sect doesn't care about him. Since you want me to test him for you, what conditions can you give me? I like straightforward people like young Master Mo the most." Mo Lin Yun saw that Mo Shui had taken the bait and immediately smiled. "Young Master Mo, you only need to test if Lin Yu's sword principle is as good as that old guy's. As for the conditions, young Master Mo, please state them." Mo Lin Yun stretched out his hand towards him, looking as if he was ready to accept any conditions. "I want 10 billion Yaobat." Mo Shui seemed to have been prepared as he hurriedly responded. His eyes were filled with greed as he added, "Also, I heard that young Master Yun obtained a treasured sword called Startling Magpie a few days ago. Would you be willing to give it to me?" Mo Lin Yun cursed in his heart. This brat's ability was not great, but his ambition was not small. But he had a favor to ask of Mo Shui and naturally would not show it. The Startling Magpie sword was originally prepared for the Sword Dao meet. Since Mo Shui wants it, I can give it to you after the Sword Dao meet ends. Mo Yin Uni was still smiling as he swiped his finger across his storage ring. Immediately, a bright light flashed past. This is 10 billion dazzling bot. Mo Yin Uni knew that if he wanted someone like Mo Shui to work for him, he had to show some sincerity. All right, young Master Uni, please wait for my good news. Mo Shui used his spiritual force to check the glory bot. Previously, he had caused some trouble and wasted quite a bit of glory bot. This time, he had made up for it all in one go. He cupped his fists towards Mo Yin Uni and was about to leave. Wait. An imperceptible light flashed across Mo Yin Uni's eyes. Young Master Mo, you have to be careful. Lin Yu seems to be vicious and merciless. Young Master Mo, don't fall into his hands. It sounded like he was trying to persuade him, but in Mo Shui's ears, it sounded like he was mocking him. Lin Yu, his realm is hundreds of Dao paths lower than mine. What a joke. After saying that, Mo Shui snorted angrily and left. He then said casually, "Remember, your startling magpie sword is mine." As soon as his voice fell, he had already quickly followed in the direction Lin Yu left. Mo Yin Uni was behind, the corners of his mouth curling into a sneer as he muttered to himself, "What an arrogant brat." Sure enough, like master, like disciple. He was displeased, but there was nothing he could do. He originally thought that he would definitely win the first battle tomorrow, but because of Yang Kai's sudden attack, he was surprised. If Lin Yu's sword Dao was also so powerful, it would be difficult for him to deal with tomorrow. Mo Yin Uni didn't want to fail miserably, but he didn't bring anyone else this time. So, he wanted to test Lin Yu before the start of the Sword Dao Conference. He could only rely on Mo Shui, who was famous for his greed. What's more, if he wanted to test Yang Kai's Sword Dao, the best candidate was from the Sword Emperor sect. Mo Yin Uni quietly followed. Soon, he heard the sound of fighting in front of him. Sword Chi, Mo Yin Uni's pupils dilated. This Mo Shui's movements were quite fast. He hid on the eaves in the dark and saw a man in black fighting with Yang Kai. As for Lin Yu and Lian Yin, they stood to the side with calm and collected expressions. Damn it, if I can't test Lin Yu's Sword Dao, what's the point? Mo Yin Uni couldn't help but curse in his heart when he saw that it was only Yang Kai who attacked. The man in black was naturally Mo Shui. But now, he only saw that Mo Shui couldn't even resist Lin Yu's attacks. How could he force Lin Yu to attack? Thinking of this, Mo Yin Uni formed a seal with his hand and blood flowed from his fingertips. This blood was wrapped in principal Qi. Try this Azura Bloodthorn. Mo Yin Uni stared at Yang Kai and directly pointed his finger. The Bloodthorn instantly shot out and Yang Kai forced Mo Shui back. But as the Bloodthorn approached, he had no choice but to withdraw his sword. At the same time, Mo Shui looked at the darkness and immediately understood where the Bloodthorn came from. Everyone attacked together. Mo Shui immediately roared. He wasn't a fool. Although Mo Yin Uni's offer was tempting, he didn't care. Mo Shui didn't completely forget the danger. As soon as his voice fell, dozens of people suddenly appeared from the darkness. Each of them stepped out with swords in hand. The Sword Emperor sect is so unsafe. Lin Yu shook his head helplessly. There's another one on the right. Lian Yin looked in the direction of the Bloodthorn. It seems that someone can't wait to fight you. There was no need to think too much. At this time, the only person who could find someone to attack Lin Yu was probably Mo Yin Uni. Let's deal with these people first. Lian Yin was a little helpless. A zither appeared in her hand, and the sound of it shot out like a blade. In an instant, the dozens of people around all paused. Only one broke through Lian Yin's sound wave wall and directly slashed at Lin Yu. Die for me. Mo Shui only revealed his eyes, but it wasn't just a test. He wanted to kill Lin Yu. As for the benefits Mo Yin Uni offered, he had already given up on Lin Yu, so it couldn't be better if he could get some benefits along the way. The sword Chi flew through the air and headed straight for Lin Yu. Lian Yin wanted to stop Mo Shui, but Lin Yu raised his hand. It's fine. He seems to want to force me to make a move. Lin Yu looked to the right. His divine sense had already detected Mo Lien Yun's existence on the dark eaves. If you want to see my sword Dao, then see clearly. Chapter 410. The moment Lin Yu's voice fell, he raised his hand, and the supreme golden light erupted. He's here. In the dark, Mo Lien Yun's eyes widened as he stared at Lin Yu. If Lin Yu's sword Dao wasn't good enough, he would definitely win tomorrow. If Lin Yu's sword Dao was as good as Yang Kai's, he could also find Lin Yu's flaws now. If necessary, Mo Lien Yun didn't mind using his cultivation to forcefully make up for the gap between him and Lin Yu. But even if he stared, he could only see Lin Yu's right hand turn into an afterimage. So fast, Mo Lien Yun sucked in a breath of cold air. He was sure that in front of Lin Yu, his sword chi slashed out and directly broke Mo Shui's sword. But not only did he not see the changes in Lin Yu's sword Dao, he didn't even see Lin Yu's sword. Is he using a sword? What kind of sword is he using? Mo Lien Yun stared at Lin Yu's right hand, but he only saw slender fingers. Where was the sword? Impossible. It wasn't just him. The most shocked person should be Mo Shui, who attacked Lin Yu. He only saw his sword chi being scattered by Lin Yu. It was a sword Dao power that he couldn't match at all. It's even stronger than Master's sword Dao. Mo Shui's mind shook greatly, his figure swiftly retreating. But he saw Lin Yu's calm expression. On that face, there was no fluctuation in his eyes. At this moment, he looked at him as if he was looking at a dead person. He would die. Mo Shui's first reaction was that it was a life and death crisis. Retreat, he immediately ordered. Mo Shui had already tested Lin Yu's sword Dao, but the consequences might not be something he could bear. Since you're here, stay. Lin Yu smiled faintly and took a step forward. In an instant, a dragon claw appeared in the night sky. What is that? The dragon claws blotted out the sky as they descended upon the dozens of black-clothed men. Regardless of whether it was speed or strength, it was beyond their understanding. Boom! In an instant, 10 people died directly under the dragon's claws. Blood burst out, and the ground was stained with blood. Mo Shui's pupils widened. There was no need for him to give the order. This time, the others had already begun to scatter. Leave no one alive. Lin Yu said softly. There was not the slightest bit of emotion in his voice. Hearing these words, Yang Kai and Lien Yin moved at the same time. Lin Yu raised his eyebrows and appeared in front of Mo Shui. Yang Kai and Lien Yin immediately understood. Lin Yu wanted to deal with the mastermind himself. Don't kill me. Mo Shui kept shaking his head and retreating, but then a fierce glint flashed in his eyes, and he drew another long sword from his storage ring. Die! He clenched his teeth and quickly counterattacked Lin Yu with his sword. A sword light flashed in the night sky, but after the sword stopped 3 feet in front of Lin Yu, it couldn't advance any further. Mo Shui looked at the golden wall of chi that blocked his sword. It wasn't a principle that was emitting from it, but a grand supreme power of the same level as him. But it was this seemingly similar grand supreme power. But like a principle, it could completely suppress his grand supreme power. It was as if Lin Yu's grand supreme power was the orthodox one. As for him, it was just a fake. Finished playing? Lin Yu's emotionless voice sounded. As his voice fell, a hand had already grabbed Mo Shui's throat like a ghost. The latter wanted to dodge. But Lin Yu's battle physique was faster, and with the interference of the Grand Supreme Realm Divine Sense, Mo Shui's reaction was a breath slower. It was only a breath slower, but Mo Shui already felt a huge hand at his throat. This hand could kill him. Lin Yu, my honor master is Xiao Wushuang. You dare to kill me? Death was about to descend. Mo Shui didn't dare to continue pretending to be a black-clothed man. At this time, it was naturally more important to protect his own life. But even if Mo Shui tore off his mask and revealed his true face, Lin Yu's actions didn't change at all. Just now, I was just itching for a fight. I know that State Preceptor Lin's sword Dao is impressive, so I want to spar. Mo Shui immediately found an excuse for himself. But before he could finish, his throat was already starting to have difficulty breathing. Lin Yu, stop. If you kill me, the Sword Emperor's sect won't let you go. Mo Shui kept struggling, holding Lin Yu's hand with both hands. Only then did he know that Lin Yu's battle physique wasn't on the same level as his. He was actually at the Grand Supreme Realm battle physique. Oh, Lin Yu's lips curled up. Then I won't let you go. Mo Shui didn't expect that Lin Yu wouldn't be threatened by him at all. Wait, don't kill me. I'll tell you who sent me. Mo Shui once again struggled to beg for a chance to live. But Lin Yu had already lost his patience, and golden light erupted from his hand. There was a cracking sound. Mo Shui, who had been deliberately trying to test him from the beginning, had died. He had already become a corpse. Lin Yu let go of his hand, and the corpse fell down, lifeless. But Mo Shui's eyes were still open, as if he couldn't believe that he had greedily tested Lin Yu for 10 billion glory baht and the shocking magpie sword. He had actually thrown his life into it. Before he died, he only remembered Xiao Wushuang's appearance when he sent Lin Yu away. Even Xiao Wushuang was extremely afraid of Lin Yu at that time. But he dared to provoke Lin Yu? This brat actually dared to kill someone from the Sword Emperor's sect. In the dark, Mo Yin Yuni had already turned around and was ready to run. But when he turned around, suddenly, the sound of a zither came from above his head. Blacklist emissary. Mo Yin Yuni's eyes widened. Not only Lien Yin, but also Yang Kai. His path of retreat had been blocked by these two people. Did you think we couldn't find you? Lien Yin smiled gently. You were the one who found those people, weren't you? Hearing this, Mo Yin Yuni only felt a terrifying sword chi envelop him from behind. Yang Kai was staring at him like a tiger eyeing its prey. Blacklist emissary, what did you say? Mo Yin Yuni's forehead was already dripping with cold sweat. This one was just passing by. He didn't see anything. Before Lien Yin could say anything, Mo Yin Yuni felt a life and death crisis again, because a sword chi had already been placed on his neck. This sword chi wasn't a real sword, but it was as if Yang Kai had raised his hand and pointed it at him. His hand was the sword. What do you mean by this? I was really just passing by. Mo Yin Yuni was so scared that his legs were trembling. For many years, he had dominated the Azura Emperor's sect, but this was the first time he felt so close to death. If he hadn't seen Lin Yu kill Mo Shui, it would have been fine, but he had seen Lin Yu kill Mo Shui with his own eyes. He dared to kill Mo Shui in the Sword Emperor sect. Was he afraid of killing someone from the Azura Emperor sect? Did you really not see anything? Lin Yu's voice came from the distance. Mo Yin Yuni's heart tightened. Yes, I really didn't see anything. But just as he finished speaking, he saw Lin Yu slowly walking towards him. One step at a time. The footsteps were like thunder, resounding in Mo Yin Yuni's heart. Chapter 411. Imperial Teacher Lin, let me go. Mo Yin Yun, he really couldn't stand this torture. Lin Yu's footsteps, to him, were no different from counting down to his death. The closer the other party got, the more afraid Mo Yin Yun he became. 3 feet. Mo Yin Yun Yi's legs trembled, and he began to lose his balance. But he couldn't run, because Yang Kai's sword chi was definitely faster than his. Obviously, Yang Kai and Lien Yin had no intention of giving him a chance to escape. 2 feet. Lin Yu continued to approach. Mo Yin Yun, he had already knelt down. Let me go. It really has nothing to do with me. A pleading voice came. If there were outsiders here, they would be extremely surprised. A dignified master of the law realm, and one of the 3 ghost generals of Azura Emperor's sect, Mo Yin Tu's only son. How could he be so spineless? Lin Yu didn't say anything and continued to approach. 10 feet. Mo Yin Yun, he heard the clear sound of footsteps. He didn't even dare to raise his head and directly kowtowed to the roof. Bang! Bang! The sound of kowtowing continued. Lien Yin and Yang Kai looked at Mo Yin Yun at the same time, feeling helpless in their hearts. Originally, they didn't have any grudges with Mo Yin Yun. But before, Azura Emperor Sect attacked Low-Key Sect under the leadership of Mo Lien Tuesday. Then today, Mo Lien Yun came to test Lin Yu. Mo Shui was dead, but Mo Lien Yun was the mastermind. They naturally knew this in their hearts. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would kill someone to silence them? Lin Yu had already walked in front of Mo Lien Yun. Looking down, Mo Lien Yun's whole body trembled, especially when he heard the words to silence them. It was a feeling that his life was in the hands of Lin Yu. Mo Lien Yun, he couldn't speak for a long time. I'm asking you a question. Lin Yu spoke again. He wouldn't pursue who sent Mo Shui. This was Lin Yu's personality. The truth had nothing to do with him, because his words were the truth. Yes, yes. Mo Lien Yun, he immediately kowtowed a few more times. No, Imperial Teacher Lin, you don't, not at all. Oh, Lin Yu smiled. The laughter made the hair on Mo Lien Yun's back stand on end. But in the next moment, he heard Lin Yu say again, "Forget it, you can go." This, Mo Lien Yun thought he had misheard. She raised her head and stared at Lin Yu in ecstasy. Imperial Preceptor, are you serious? Mo Lien Yun felt like he had just survived a disaster. What? You don't want to leave? Lin Yu frowned slightly. Mo Lien Yun did not dare to talk nonsense. He immediately shook his head and said, "You want to leave? Thank you, State Preceptor, thank you." After saying this, he didn't dare to look at Lin Yu for even half a second. He immediately half ran and half fell as he left. Looking at Mo Lien Yun's departing figure, Lien Yin looked at Lin Yu in astonishment. You really let him go? Seeing Lin Yu nod, Lien Yin was even more puzzled. This doesn't seem like your style. What is my style like? Those who go against you will be turned to ashes by you, Lien Yin said with certainty. Hearing this, Lin Yu could only smile and look at Lien Yin aggressively. It seems that you know me very well. You can say that. Lien Yin smiled self-deprecatingly. Actually, I don't know you very well. After all, our State Preceptor is too unfathomable. Lin Yu touched his chin and couldn't help but say, Isn't unfathomable because you're not long enough? After hearing this, Lien Yin only felt that this sentence was meaningful, but she couldn't tell what was wrong with it. Only Yang Kai on the side almost coughed up blood. He immediately went to pick up the storage rings of the dead tonight. Picking up the storage rings after killing the enemy. It had become a tradition of the Low-Key Sect. Seeing this, Lien Yin stared at Lin Yu angrily. You must have other reasons. Otherwise, you would have killed him just now. Lin Yu nodded and no longer deliberately teased Lien Yin. Everyone knows that Mo Lien Yun's opponent tomorrow is me. If he dies tonight, then I will be the prime suspect. The dignified State Preceptor is actually afraid of being suspected. Lien Yin deliberately teased Lin Yu. After Yang Kai finished picking up the storage rings, he handed them all to Lin Yu. Let's go, Lin Yu said while looking in a direction. If we don't go now, their honored master will come. After saying this, the three disappeared. After a long while, several figures appeared here. Honored master, senior brother Mo Shui, is dead. There are also 30 senior brothers. None of them survived. Xiao Wushuang's angry roar came. Who dares to touch my people? He gritted his teeth. But when his gaze fell on the clothes of these disciples, his pupils shrank. Black clothes. Xiao Wushuang took a few steps forward and stared at Mo Shui's corpse. He was strangled to death. The strength of a Grand Realm war physique? Xiao Wushuang calmed his mind. Idiot! If you said you were sure of your master, you wouldn't have died here, just like that. He was not a fool. We saw these people wearing black clothes. He already knew what was going on. Honored master, should we inform Grand Master? No need. They provoked someone they shouldn't have. What can my sword Emperor Sect say? Xiao Wushuang's gaze was sharp, but there are others. I know who did it. This king will definitely take revenge. Lin Yu and the other two returned to the Zither Emperor Sect's guest hall. On the way, under Lien Yin's repeated questioning, he still explained, It's not that I'm afraid of being suspected, but I don't want to ruin my reputation. After he said this, Yang Kai nodded repeatedly. Is Sect Master considering the reputation of our low-profile sect? That's true, Lin Yu said. Then, He returned to his bedroom. Yang Kai also left. Only Lian looked in the direction of Lin Yu's bedroom and smiled softly. He is indeed a terrifying opponent. No wonder Feng Buxiu was defeated. Her expression suddenly became a little foxy and evil. At this moment, Lian Yin's temperament was very different from the usual Seventh Highness in front of the world. Except for the battle between Lin Yu and Mo Lian Yunyi. In the guest hall, in the direction of the divine, Emperor's sex camp. The short young master, Shang Su, walked out with a smug face. This bitch is really powerful. Young master Shang Su took a few steps, wanted to walk towards the Tong Emperor's sex guest hall. However, his legs suddenly lost all strength and went soft. He immediately held onto the wall beside him. My legs are weak. It seems that I won't be able to fight tomorrow. In the night, 8 figures immediately appeared. Young master. The leader supported young master Shang Su. The 8 of them had different expressions, but they also saw young master Shang Su's state. They said that they were going to test Hua Jiyu. Now that it had turned out like this, even a fool would know what had happened. Let's go back. Young master Shang Su turned his head. That bitch Hua Jiyu is too powerful. I lost. The next day, just after dawn, the morning light sprinkled down. Beside an extremely high cliff in the Sword Emperor sect, countless disciples began to gather here. Chapter 412. These people were wearing the Sword Emperor sect's uniform. Not only them, but there were also people from the Ghoul sect, Azura Emperor sect, Medicine Emperor sect, Zither Emperor sect, Tong Emperor sect, and Divine Emperor sect. They were all gathered here. Xiao Wushuang stepped into the air and stood in front of the cliff, above the vast white jade dojo. He looked down at the people below. Yu Xiao Xiao, Xiong Wenlong, Hua Jiyu, young master Shang Su. There was also Lin Yu and Mo Lian Yunyi. These people all fell into Xiao Wushuang's eyes. He wanted to find out who killed his people, but he had no clue. Mo Zui died under the Grand Supreme battle physique. Xiao Wushuang thought to himself. As for the others, they died under the Sword Dao. As for Lian, she only used laws to injure the enemy yesterday and didn't use any of the Zither Emperor's sex cultivation techniques. Therefore, Xiao Wushuang couldn't tell that those wounds were from her. Welcome, everyone. Xiao Wushuang didn't think too much and smiled at the people below. Everyone has already drawn the battle order last night. For today's first battle, Medicine Emperor's sex number 1 immortal, Yu Xiao Xiao, will fight against Ghoul Sect's Xiong Wenlong. When Xiao Wushuang mentioned Xiong Wenlong, his gaze couldn't help but become sharper. Maybe it was this kid who killed my people. After hearing that, Yu Xiao Xiao and Xiong Wenlong stepped onto the dojo at the same time. I heard that Xiong Wenlong is the disciple of the Ghost Sect's charming general, but his cultivation isn't very good. Everyone below had already started discussing, especially the disciples of the Sword Emperor sect. They seem to have some innate contempt for the other Emperor sects. No matter who it is, with young Master Wushuang here today, our Sword Emperor sect is destined to be invincible. Who doesn't know that this Sword Dao conference is just a stepping stone for young Master Wushuang to inherit the position of Sword Envoy? Yes, but it's strange that I don't see senior brother Mo Zui today. In the sky, behind Xiao Wushuang, a majestic and huge emperor's throne appeared. That emperor's throne emitted a proud aura. It was obviously a supreme treasure. Xiao Wushuang sat down under everyone's gazes. He had the aura of a monarch. Xiao Wushuang raised his hand and exclaimed, I hereby announce that the Sword Dao meet has officially begun. Seeing this scene, Lian, who was beside Lin Yu, could not help but snort coldly. What a pretentious person. How can he become a top-notch sword cultivator if he pursues power and fame like this? Lin Yu didn't say anything. Instead, he rubbed his chin and sat in his seat. He sipped his tea and sized up Yu Xiao Xiao and Xiong Wenlong. The two of them casually exchanged a few blows. However, Xiong Wenlong seemed to be unable to withstand the small, rumbling thunder divine sword. Looks like Yu Xiao Xiao is going to win the first round. Lian said softly. The sword in Xiong Wenlong's hand is a black iron sword. Although it doesn't look to be of a low grade, it's clearly no match for the thunderclap sword. Yang Kai also came to the same conclusion. He did it on purpose. Lin Yu raised his eyebrows. It seems that Xiong Wenlong wants to repay Yu Xiaoxiao for saving his wife. Lian Yin and Yang Kai were taken aback. Xiong Wenlong's wife? Is there a story behind this? Lian Yin was curious. She naturally didn't know what had happened on Lin Yu's first night here. Well, the time isn't right yet. Lin Yu smiled softly as he thought of a good idea. When the time is right, we can erupt together. Perhaps we can give the Sword Emperor Sect a headache for a while. His gaze fell on Xiao Wushuang's back. That was the back of the cliff. It was also the legendary entrance to the Broken Sword Cliff. If I want to perfectly unleash the Emperor Sword, I need something left behind by the Sword Emperor. Lin Yu pondered. In his heart, he judged that the Emperor's sword should still be in Li Chen's hands. I still need to force Xiao Wushuang. Only then will the Emperor's sword appear. Lin Yu already had a comprehensive plan. However, Lian Yin and Yang Kai just looked at him in confusion. They could naturally see that Lin Yu was scheming something. However, they couldn't guess what it was exactly. Are you deliberately letting me win? Yu Xiaoxiao's pretty face wrinkled slightly. She withdrew her sword, giving Xiong Wenlong a chance to breathe. Otherwise, Xiong Wenlong would have already been sent flying out of the square. I'm indeed not Fairy Yu's opponent, Xiong Wenlong said truthfully. He then added softly, since I know I'm inferior, I'm willing to help Fairy Yu save some energy. After all, the second and third battles will be 10,000 times more dangerous than today. The two of them spoke very softly. The people outside the square couldn't hear them. Why aren't you fighting? Quick, I bet on Xiong Wenlong to win. Don't lose. Get lost. I bet on Yu Xiaoxiao to win. Yu Xiaoxiao will definitely win. The Sword Emperor's sect disciples below the square clamored. Yu Xiaoxiao heard and asked in confusion, why did you do this? You should know that the Emperor's sect only cares about benefits. This young lady won't thank you. Fairy Yu doesn't need to thank me. Xiong Wenlong smiled faintly and took a few steps forward. It's all thanks to Fairy Yu for saving my wife that night. This matter, Yu Xiaoxiao quickly warned. How did you find out? Fragrance, Xiong Wenlong said. Yu Xiaoxiao suddenly thought of the fragrance on her body. If she had saved a man, she wouldn't have been easily discovered. However, how could Bai, who was also a woman, hide from her? Don't tell anyone. This young lady was just hot-headed that day. Yu Xiaoxiao warned. No, I'm the only one who knows that young lady took action that day. Xiong Wenlong was not a fool. Of course, he understood that Yu Xiaoxiao didn't want to cause trouble. After all, she didn't represent herself. The interests of the Emperor's sect were inextricably linked. Yu Xiaoxiao represented the entire Medicine Emperor sect. Yu Xiaoxiao was relieved. However, Xiong Wenlong couldn't help but ask, but young lady, can you tell me who wants to catch my wife? Yu Xiaoxiao was put in a spot. Think about who you have offended. Yu Xiaoxiao stood up with her sword. That's all I can say. Go ahead. Who did I offend? Xiong Wenlong immediately thought of the day when he saved the beautiful lady and offended the Tong Emperor sect. He had also suspected Mr. Xingsu. However, there was evidence for everything, especially since he was representing the Emperor's sect at the Sword Dao meet. Without any evidence, Xiong Wenlong didn't dare to question Mr. Xingsu. However, things were different with Yu Xiaoxiao's affirmation. I understand. Thank you, young lady. Xiong Wenlong cupped his fists and faced Yu Xiaoxiao with his sword. The latter cursed in her heart. Don't drag the Medicine Emperor's sect down with you. She was afraid that news of her meddling in other people's business would spread. If her master were to find out about this, she would definitely be punished by sweeping through all of the Alchemy Emperor's lands. Don't worry, my acting skills are very good. After saying that, Xiong Wenlong chuckled and exchanged a few more moves with Yu Xiaoxiao. Then, he naturally flew backward. At the same time, he also took out a small demonic beast blood bag from his storage ring and bit it open. The crowd only saw that Xiong Wenlong was seriously injured and spitting out blood. Clearly, he had already lost. However, no one saw his series of actions clearly. Lin Yu was the only one who understood this person and saw everything clearly. You're quite fast, Lin Yu said with a smile. At the same time, Yu Xiao won the first battle. Hua Jiyu and Mr. Sheng Su, whose legs had turned to jelly, also walked onto the Dao Hall. Chapter 413. What's wrong with young Master Sheng Su? Why does he look so weak in the knees? I heard that young Master Sheng Su is the most talented member of the younger generation in the Tang Emperor clan. I'm betting everything on him today. Will he fail miserably? Before the fight even started, everyone had already noticed that something was wrong with young Master Sheng Su. What's wrong with him? Lianing also noticed that something was wrong. That guy's face was pale, and his limbs looked weak. Hence, she asked Lin Yu subconsciously. The latter did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked at Hua Jiyu, who was opposite young Master Sheng Su. She looked very confident. She still likes to use the same tricks. Lin Yu smiled helplessly. He recalled how Hua Jiyu dealt with men during the 100,000 years he was trapped. In the training hall, young Master Sheng Su's gaze wandered around Hua Jiyu's body. He chuckled. B*TCH, I'll teach you a lesson tonight. Hua Jiyu burst into laughter. Young Master, lower your voice. It'll be bad if others hear you. When Hua Jiyu spoke, she looked so charming that young Master Sheng Su's inner fire was ignited. He immediately thought of last night's affair. It was fine if he did not think about it. This aftertaste made his legs feel even weaker. I've rested for an entire night, and I still haven't recovered. Forget it, I'm not fighting. Young Master Sheng Su knew that he was no match for Hua Jiyu in his current state. We sparred last night. The outcome is clear. I admit defeat. Young Master Sheng Su immediately cupped his fists and said. Then, he walked out of the training hall under everyone's astonished gazes. Damn it, what's going on? He surrendered without fighting? Young Master Sheng Su, you bastard. Not only did the Sword Emperor clan organize the Sword Dao Conference, moreover, he had even set up a huge gambling house. The contents of the bet were naturally the battles of the Sword Dao meet. Young Master Sheng Su was very popular. After all, the Tang Emperor clan was notorious for their tyrannical behavior. The reason why the Tang Emperor clan could be so tyrannical was not only because of the #1 internal battle physique in the star field, but also because of the Tang Emperor. The Tang Emperor clan's disciples' combat strength was among the top in the Emperor clan. But they did not expect. Facing Hua Jiyu, this young Master Sheng Su actually surrendered without fighting. How is this young Master Sheng Su? This is clearly young Master Kidney Deficiency. How can he be worthy of the title of young Master? He's just a weakling. Curses continued to be heard. Mr. Sheng Su flew into a rage out of humiliation. He roared at the crowd. Whether I win or lose is my business. What does it have to do with you? He looked around, his anger from being defeated by Hua Jiyu on the soft couch erupting. Whoever dares to say another word, come out and fight this young master one-on-one. When Yu Xiao, Lianing, and the other women saw this scene, they couldn't help but laugh. Preposterous. Emperor Tong's sect sending him out is a disgrace to the entire Emperor Gate starfield. Lianing said with contempt. There was no need for Lin Yu to explain. She had already vaguely guessed what was going on between young Master Sheng Su and Hua Jiyu. Second battle. Xiao Wushuang glanced disdainfully in the direction of the Tang Emperor sect and bowed to Hua Jiyu. The Divine Will Emperor sect wins. How could this woman be so good in bed? Xiao Wushuang's heart was racing. If there was a chance, he actually wanted to give it a try. After hearing this, Hua Jiyu, who was below, only bowed and smiled. She suppressed the pride of her victory and returned to her seat. Third battle. Xiao Wushuang's voice was like thunder. Everyone immediately held their breaths. The Shura Emperor's sect's Emolian Uni will fight against the Zither Emperor's sect's Lin Yu. After saying this, those who had lost money before suddenly had some hope in their hearts. It's a pity that less than 10% of people bet on Lin Yu winning. The other 90% all bet on Mo Lin Uni winning. The odds aren't high. It's reasonable that the odds aren't high. Lin Yu is only at the mid-stage of the Grand Supreme realm. He only has 500 to 600 Dao force. How can he compete with someone in the Law realm? Mo Lien Uni will definitely win this battle. If his odds are high, the Sword Emperor sect will suffer a huge loss. I bet 300,000 dazzling gold coins on Mo Lien Uni winning. I hope I can win a few tens of thousands of dazzling gold coins back. Young Master Xing Su's battle really killed me. Don't worry, Lin Yu has the title of Imperial Teacher, but his cultivation is only at the Grand Supreme realm. The Sword Emperor sect has already announced this. Lin Yu won't lose. Under everyone's gaze, Lin Yu and Mo Lien Uni came up at the same time. This battle, which seemed to have no suspense, made everyone lose their expectations. Imperial Teacher Lin, it's fine as long as you don't give up. That's right. Hurry up and surrender. Don't wait for young Master Uni to seriously injure you. It'll be troublesome if you can't heal. Below, those who had bet on Lin Yu winning couldn't wait to see him lose. Their urging and mocking voices made Yang Kai and Lien Yin extremely displeased. Impudent, do you want to die early? Is it your turn to criticize our Imperial Teacher's battle? Yang Kai and Lien Yin's voices rang out. Coupled with their cultivation of the Law realm, those people immediately shut their mouths. Haha, you two don't need to be nervous. The disciples of the Sword Emperor sect are also worried about Imperial Teacher's safety. The one who spoke was none other than Hua Jiu, who had just won the previous battle. Others didn't dare to offend the Zither Emperor's sect, but she still remembered Lin Yu's arrogant attitude towards her. She looked over, but when her eyes met with Lien Yin's, she suddenly felt that she was inferior to her. After all, compared to Lien Yin, Hua Jiu's beauty was still a little lacking. Our Imperial Teacher doesn't need you to teach him how to fight, Lien Yin said angrily, cursing this annoying woman in her heart. Hua Jiu just smiled faintly. Imperial Teacher is still at the Grand Supreme realm. Although his status in your Zither Emperor sect is extremely high, this is the Sword Emperor sect. If young Master Uni injures the Imperial Teacher of the Zither Emperor sect, I hope 7th Prince won't blame him. From her words, it sounded like she was a villain before a gentleman. In fact, it was because she understood Mo Lien Uni. This person's methods were vicious and vengeful. Yesterday's jealousy must have made Mo Lien Uni hate Lin Yu to the bone. Her words were to pave the way for Mo Lien Uni to kill Lin Yu. Then just watch. Lien Yin snorted coldly, too lazy to pay attention to this woman. Yang Kai didn't say anything, but he still felt that this Hua Jiu was extremely powerful. From the fact that she could make young Master Xing Su surrender directly, this woman's methods of dealing with men could be seen. Lien Yin didn't say anything, and Hua Jiu didn't say anything either. The two women's beautiful eyes turned to the square at the same time. However, Lien Yin was looking at Lin Yu. Hua Jiu was looking at Mo Lien Uni. Not only Hua Jiu, but Yu Xiao, who defeated Xiong Wenlong, was also below the stage. This number 1 immortal of the Medicine Emperor sect was the only woman whose beauty could compare to Lien Yin's. However, her gaze also fell on Mo Lien Uni. Chapter 414. Is he the guy from that night or not? Yu Xiao had always had doubts in her heart, but from time to time, she would glance at Lin Yu from the corner of her eyes. That guy actually touched me there. Yu Xiao's breathing quickened, and Lin Yu's anger rose. He's as annoying as that guy from that night. Lin Yu and Mo Lien Uni on the training ground naturally had no time to care about the thoughts of these women below the stage. But when those people's gazes were waiting for Mo Lien Uni to overwhelmingly defeat Lin Yu, only the latter's eyes kept flickering, and he did not dare to look at Lin Yu. They're waiting for you to defeat me. Lin Yu's voice sounded calm, without the slightest emotion. It was exactly the same as when he almost killed him last night. When Mo Lien Uni heard this voice, he felt terrible. Don't come over. Mo Lien Uni did not even have the courage to draw his sword. His mind was filled with the scene of his life hanging by a thread last night. Make your move. Lin Yu raised his eyebrows and raised his right hand. That action was exactly the same as when he fought with Mo Shui last night. If it was the first time Mo Lin Yuni saw Lin Yu make a move, perhaps he would even underestimate the enemy. But he had already seen Lin use Sword Dao last night, and even he could not see it clearly. How could he block this kind of Sword Dao that could not be seen clearly? Young Master Uni, kill him. Beat Lin Yu down. Yeah, help us get some money back. The voices of watching the show continued to come from below. Mo Lin Uni scolded this group of people in his heart. Weren't they forcing him to death? Fight or not? Mo Lin Uni gritted his teeth. I am the Emperor's sex prodigy. I will fight it out with you. He roared in his mind. Mo Lin Uni held the shocking magpie sword in his hand. Although this sword's sword chi was weak, the moment it was unsheathed, there was an ear-piercing sound. Sword chime. What a powerful sword. There's actually a sword chime. Sounds like magpies chirping continuously came. Mo Lin Uni stared at Lin Yu, trying to see through his opponent's weakness. But in the next moment, he became even more nervous, because Lin Yu didn't attack. Instead, he raised his hand and walked towards him step by step. The sound of the sword humming could not suppress Lin Yu's footsteps. You're scaring me again. Cold sweat appeared on Mo Lin Yuni's forehead, and his sword chi suddenly became unstable. Don't come over, or I'll make a move. Mo Lin Uni warned Lin Yu. However, the latter did not seem to have any intention of stopping. Puff, puff. The distance between the two of them continued to shrink. Idiot. Is that State Preceptor Lin courting death? He actually dared to approach a law realm expert so carelessly? I think he doesn't want to live anymore. Young Master Uni, finish him in one move. Yu Xiao Xiao, Hua Jiyu, and the others also saw Lin Yu's flaws. He didn't have the slightest intention of making a move. He was clearly just approaching Mo Lin Uni normally. What was he up to? Hua Jiyu narrowed her eyes. Lin Yu wasn't such a person who would court death. This abnormal action made Hua Jiyu feel a little uneasy. Even Xiao Wushuang, who was in the sky, didn't understand what Lin Yu was doing. But what he did understand even more was that Mo Lin Uni didn't attack Lin Yu at this time. Instead, his entire body was trembling. Why is that kid trembling? The others couldn't see it clearly, but Xiao Wushuang could see it clearly from where he was. Something strange. Lin Yu hadn't made a move yet. He was still approaching. Don't come over. I told you not to come over. Mo Lin Uni pointed the frightened magpie sword at Lin Yu. His entire body was full of flaws, but he didn't dare to attack Lin Yu. However, Lin Yu had already put down his hand at this time. Could it be that it's not his right hand, but his left hand last night? Mo Lin Uni wanted to predict how Lin Yu would attack him, but when the distance between the two was reduced to 20 feet, Lin Yu still didn't make a move. No, it's too close. Mo Lin Uni's forehead was sweating. He thought to himself that if he couldn't dodge Lin Yu's move at such a close distance, he would be dead for sure. As he thought about it, everyone's jaws almost dropped. Why? Why is he retreating? Young Master Mo Lin hit him. Everyone saw it. Lin Yu took a step forward, and Mo Lin Uni took a step back. Is he afraid of Lin Yu? A dignified law realm is actually afraid of a supreme realm. Outside the training hall, the curses were like thunder. However, Mo Lin Uni didn't care about anything. His two eyes were fixed on Lin Yu's hands the entire time. Lin Yu's hands were in front of him, and his fingers moved. It's coming. Mo Lin Uni's pupils dilated, and his entire body's sword chi erupted. However, the next thing he saw was Lin Yu stretching. Damn it. Is it a feint? Mo Lin Uni was extremely vigilant, but Lin Yu approached him again. His face even showed that incomparably calm expression. Even if Lin Yu had a little expression now, Mo Lin Uni wouldn't be so afraid. However, this emotionless appearance made him feel like he would be killed at any time. Mo Lin Uni, make a move. Hua Jiyu couldn't help but shout. She really couldn't understand. Even if Mo Lin Uni didn't immediately defeat Lin Yu, she could understand. But now, what was with the cowardice of not fighting? Hua Jiyu was furious. Meanwhile, Lian Yin had already cast her gaze. Hua Jiu, why don't you teach Mo Lin Yuni how to fight our imperial advisor? She was mocking Hua Jiu's mockery of Lin Yu at the beginning of the match. However, Hua Jiu couldn't fight back, so she could only swallow her anger. Because on the field, Mo Lin Yuni had already retreated to the edge of the training hall. Hit him. If you retreat again, we'll lose everything. The crowd below the stage shouted. However, Mo Lin Yuni didn't care about them. How could he not know that he had no way out? Impossible. If I'm forced out by you today, where will I put my face in the future? Mo Lin Yuni gritted his teeth, and the sword chi in his hand exploded. No matter what, I'll fight with you. Just as he finished speaking, Lin Yu had already appeared in front of him in an instant. The distance was less than 3 feet. Lin Yu raised his hand. So fast, Mo Lin Yuni's eyes instantly widened. When he reacted, he could only see Lin Yu's right hand turning into an afterimage. At such a close distance, I'll die. I can't fight. Mo Lin Yuni roared. He made a move. Young Master Yuni finally made a move. Lin Yu is dead. I bet he can't resist one move. I heard that a mysterious person bet 100 billion on Lin Yu's victory yesterday. This time, we'll split the 100 billion dazzling bot. However, in the next moment, the crowd clearly saw a figure flying out of the training hall. Mo Lin Yuni, why did you jump down? It's over, it's over. He'll lose if he leaves the training hall. The crowd was in an uproar. Not only those who placed their bets, but even the young geniuses like Xiao Wushuang, Hua Jiu, and Yu Xiaoxiao felt their minds churning at this moment. This battle was even more ridiculous than young Master Shang Tsu's battle. Chapter 415. Mo Lin Yuni had already left the training hall, but he rolled his eyes and immediately suppressed his fear of Lin Yu. He smiled and said, State Preceptor Lin's attack just now was really powerful. I admit defeat. Then, ignoring the torrential curses, Mo Lin Yuni turned around and returned to his camp. At this moment, everyone present was shocked by this battle. How did Mo Lin Yuni lose? I didn't see them fight. But Mo Lin Yuni's words made them think of something. Could it be that the two of them had already fought? A divine sense battle. It must be a divine sense battle. Everyone was discussing. It seems that Lin Yu's strongest point is not his cultivation, but his divine sense. There were no divine sense fluctuations at all. Damn it. Why did he lose to Lin Yu? Hua Jiu cursed Mo Lin Yuni in her heart. She was from the divine sense Emperor Gate. How could she not see it? Lin Yu didn't do anything at all, and Mo Lin Yuni was defeated. But she also knew that she couldn't care less about Mo Lin Yuni now. Lin Yu won, and he was the winner, and it was very likely that he would be Hua Jiu's opponent in the next battle. That was the most important thing. This trash, in the seat of honor, Xiao Wushuang looked at Lin Yu and was silent for a while before looking in his direction. Congratulations, Imperial Advisor Lin, for winning this battle. With his announcement, Lin Yu also confirmed the victory of this battle. No matter how strange the process was to determine the winner, but a win was a win. Well done, Imperial Advisor. Lian Yin and Yang Kai welcomed Lin Yu back to his seat. Only they weren't as shocked as the others. They were their last night, so they naturally knew why Mo Lin Yuni lost. Mo Lin Yuni's Dao heart has already lost to Imperial Advisor, so this battle can be said to be a victory without a fight. Lian Yin smiled faintly, referring to the words that Mo Lin Yuni had purposely said to everyone. At least he didn't let himself lose too inexplicably. Lin Yu was too lazy to care about this and casually sat down. He heard Xiao Wushuang's voice from the seat of honor. The first round of the Sword Dao meet has ended. The Sword Emperor sect has already randomly selected the participants for the second round. He waved his right hand, and the obsidian energy in his hand materialized into words that floated in the air. Everyone raised their hands to take a look, only to see that it was the name list for the second round of the Sword Dao meet tomorrow. Yu Xiaoxiao versus Xiao Wushuang. Hua Jiu versus Lin Yu. He looked at the name list formed by the obsidian energy. In the Alchemy Emperor's camp, Yu Xiaoxiao felt a lot of pressure. Looks like there's going to be a tough battle ahead. she muttered to herself. On the other hand, Xiao Wushuang, on the other hand, was secretly smiling. The name list sounded like a random selection, but in fact, it was made by him. But people with discerning eyes weren't stupid. They just didn't want to expose it. Do you think I'm easy to bully? The more Xiao thought about it, the angrier she got. Her beautiful eyes fell on Hua Jiyu and Lin Yu. Of course, she knew that Xiao Wushuang chose her as his opponent because he felt that she was the weakest opponent now. However, it was fine if she lost to Hua Jiyu. After all, that woman's ability to deal with men made her feel inferior. It was normal for Xiao Wushuang to be wary of her. However, why did she lose to Lin Yu? Did Xiao Wushuang think that Lin Yu was stronger than her? So he would rather fight with her than choose Lin Yu as tomorrow's opponent. Yu Xiao wasn't the only one. Hua Jiyu also looked at Lin Yu with her beautiful eyes. The opponent for the next round, Hua Jiyu squinted slightly and was in a dilemma. Although his realm is low, he defeated Mo Lin Yuni. Hua Jiyu looked at Mo Lin Yuni, but the latter only felt embarrassed and deliberately said, "I was really careless." Hua Jiyu was confused, but Mo Lin Yuni didn't give her a chance to continue asking. If others saw that he was scared by Lin Yu, where would he put his face? Wait. Before Hua Jiyu's voice fell, Mo Lin Yuni had already disappeared. Imperial teacher, perhaps this is what they mean by enemies meeting on a narrow road. Lien Yin deliberately teased Lin Yu. It doesn't matter. Lin Yu showed that he didn't care at all and turned to leave. Xiao Wushuang looked at Lin Yu's back and narrowed his eyes. Why can't I see through this person? Unfortunately, he didn't have time to think about it. Lin Yu and the others had already left the cliff. As for the other Emperor's sect members, they naturally left one after another. Lien Yin and Yang Kai thought that Lin Yu would go directly to the guest hall. They didn't expect that Lin Yu would go to the Sword Emperor sect's gambling house first. The gambling house was now bustling with noise. But listening carefully, they were all complaining about how much money they had lost. Yang Kai and Lien Yin were puzzled. Is Imperial Teacher going to relax after the competition? Lien Yin pursed her lips and asked Lin Yu tentatively. The latter didn't say anything. Imperial Teacher Lin, please wait. A woman's voice suddenly came from behind. The woman walked over leisurely with graceful steps. She had a charming look on her face. Who else could it be but Hua Jiyu of the Divine Will Emperor sect? This woman again? Lien Yin and Yang Kai thought at the same time. Obviously, they were extremely disgusted with Hua Jiyu. But when they looked sideways, they saw that Lin Yu's expression was still calm, as if this woman couldn't affect Lin Yu's state of mind at all. No matter how Hua Jiyu walked over with a smile, Lin Yu's expression was still full of indifference. For a proud woman like Hua Jiyu, she was already used to the gazes of other men on her. Lin Yu's indifference was simply humiliating her. I don't have time to talk to you. Go play somewhere else. Lien Yin glanced at the other party and said, this person was an enemy, not a friend. When she instigated Mo Lien Yun to heavily injure Lin Yu, Lien Yin was already very clear about this point. But Hua Jiyu turned a deaf ear and continued walking. She wanted to see Lin Yu's details. After all, although Lin Yu's cultivation wasn't high, he still defeated Mo Lien Yun. This made Hua Jiyu feel a sense of unease. The Sword Emperor Sect's casino is really fun. Does Imperial Teacher Lin want to go in and play? Hua Jiyu continued. Lin Yu still ignored her and walked straight into the casino. At the door, Zhuang Tiangang and Yang Mu were already waiting for him. Imperial Teacher. The two bowed in a low voice. They were low-key, obviously worried about being recognized by the spies of the Sword Emperor Sect. But Lin Yu deliberately made them wait in this crowded place. It was also to test their loyalty to Yang Kai. You could take the glory bot at any time. Yang Mu answered the task Lin Yu had arranged for him yesterday. Hearing this, Lin Yu smiled and nodded. Hua Jiyu, who was next to him, naturally didn't know what Lin Yu was planning. She just wanted to test Lin Yu's true strength before she really fought with Lin Yu. I heard that the Sword Emperor Sect lost a lot of glory bot this time because of Imperial Teacher Lin. Hua Jiyu took the initiative to talk again. Lien Yin couldn't help but retort. Are all the women of the divine will emperor's sect so arrogant? Chapter 416. Haha, I don't understand what Seventh Highness is saying. Hua Jiu didn't care about what she said. Her goal was to learn more about Lin Yu's abilities. Lian Yin was flustered and exasperated, thinking that Lin Yu wasn't wrong. This woman was willing to do anything to achieve her goal. Because of me? When Lian Yin was angry, Lin Yu unexpectedly replied to Hua Jiu. Seeing that he was finally talking to her, how could Hua Jiu let go of this opportunity? She quickly took a step forward and approached Lin Yu. Her body fragrance wafted over as well. She also took the opportunity to insert herself between Lin Yu and Lian Yin. Those people thought that Mo Yin Yuni would definitely win against Imperial Tutor, so they bet heavily on him. But who would have thought that Imperial Tutor would actually defeat Mo Lin Yuni? Hua Jiu deliberately raised her voice. At the same time, many gamblers from the Sword Emperor sect who had lost money also noticed Lin Yu. Hostile gazes immediately filled the surroundings, almost surrounding Lin Yu and the others. Seeing this, Yang Kai's sharp gaze swept over. Along with the sword chi, it immediately shocked the hearts of these people, causing them to withdraw their gazes. Yang Kai stood silently behind Lin Yu. If it weren't for Lin Yu's order, he would have already killed Hua Jiu. Oh, as if he couldn't see the changes around him, Lin Yu pretended to look at Hua Jiu curiously and said helplessly, "If you dare to bet, you must dare to lose. How can you blame me?" Hua Jiu smiled charmingly and took advantage of the situation. Imperial Tutor's words are very reasonable. If you dare to bet, you must dare to lose. I wonder if Jiu can make a bet with Imperial Tutor? Lin Yu didn't say anything. The few of them had already entered the gambling house. Hua Jiu pointed to a spacious stage in the gambling house and said charmingly, "Imperial Tutor is Jiu's opponent tomorrow, but I am afraid of Imperial Tutor's unfathomable strength." She knew that most men didn't like to be forceful. Instead of beating around the bush and being rejected by Lin Yu, it was better to get straight to the point. Jiu wants to test Imperial Tutor's sword Dao before tomorrow's battle. I wonder if Imperial Tutor can grant me a wish. What if I say no? Lin Yu casually found a seat and sat down. Hua Jiu saw this. She immediately poured him a cup of tea. At the same time, she pouted and said, "Then Jie will probably hate the Imperial Tutor to death for the rest of her life." The conversation between the two could be heard. It was like the flirting between a man and a woman. Hearing this, Lian Yin was furious. She couldn't understand why Lin Yu would pay attention to this woman. "There are too many women who hate me. You're just one more." When Lin Yu spoke, he didn't even look at Hua Jiu. Instead, he stretched out his finger. Behind him, Yang Mu tactfully took a step forward. "To take back what belongs to us." Yes, Yang Mu lowered his head and left. But Hua Jiu, who was in front of Lin Yu, heard Lin Yu's heartless words and snorted. However, that was all. How could Hua Jiu dare to express too much dissatisfaction? She rolled her eyes and stuck close to Lin Yu. A warm wind blew into Lin Yu's ear. If Imperial Tutor is willing to test Jieyu's moves, Jieyu can agree to Imperial Tutor's last request. Not many men could resist such a woman. She looked beautiful, and there was a kind of pure feeling about her. However, in her every move, she was charming and captivating, whetting the man's appetite. Last request. Lin Yu blinked. What was the request last time? Annoying. Hua Jiu had a reproachful look. Imperial Tutor is very smart. How can you not know what I mean? I'm forgetful. Lin Yu sipped his teacup. Forget it if you don't want to say it. Seeing this, Hua Jiu gritted her teeth. Although she didn't mind using her body to deal with men, there were still many people here. However, there were still many people here, and Lin Yu and her were the focus of attention of the Sword Emperor's sex disciples. Especially just now. She purposely let others notice Lin Yu. Now, Lin Yu wanted her to repeat her previous request. Even Hua Jiu was a little shy. Imperial Tutor is bullying me. Hua Jiu continued. I won't send you off. Lin Yu didn't look at her anymore. This scene immediately made Hua Jiu worried. She had already baited Lin Yu step by step. If she retreated now, she would lose the chance to test Lin Yu. And tomorrow, she could only face an unfathomable opponent. No, Hua Jiyu wasn't willing to take the risk. She could only approach Lin Yu. That's right. I can let Imperial Tutor do whatever he wants. Pung. As soon as these words came out, on the other side of the table, the teacup in Lin Yin's hand suddenly burst. Hua Jiyu, you're presumptuous. Lin Yu only made this request because he wanted to refuse her last time. He didn't expect this woman to take it seriously. Before Hua Jiyu could speak, Lin Yu laughed first. What do you mean by do whatever I want? His voice was full of aggressiveness, and at the same time, he looked at Hua Jiyu without any scruples. It was the latter's first time meeting such a powerful man. Even if it was Mo Lin Yuni and young Master Sheng Su, which one of them was not confused by her words and could not find a way home. But Lin Yu was very different in Hua Jiyu's eyes. If Imperial Tutor still wants to force me to say it, I will definitely die of shame. Hua Jiyu turned her face away, like a pure beauty who was being bullied. Seeing this, Kai Yang and the surrounding people were all stunned. Didn't Hua Jiyu of the Divine will Emperor Sex say that she is a saintess? Why do I hear some words that make me restless? Does this Hua Jiyu have some unspeakable story with Lin Yu? I heard that Hua Jiyu and Lin Yu used to have a relationship. Today, Hua Jiyu immediately came to flirt with Lin Yu after Lin Yu defeated Mo Lin Yun Yi at the Sword Dao meeting. It seems that this woman's image of a white lotus is fake. Hearing these words, Hua Jiyu suppressed the anger in her heart. She secretly swore in her heart that if Lin Yu was defeated by her tomorrow, Hua Jiyu didn't mind making Lin Yu suffer a fate worse than death. Fine, I won't make things difficult for you. She thought that Lin Yu would continue. But unexpectedly, Lin Yu stretched and suddenly stood up. Imperial Tutor, what are you doing? Hua Jiyu looked surprised. Didn't you want to fight? Lin Yu said indifferently. A glimmer of light flashed in Hua Jiyu's beautiful eyes. Okay, thank you, Imperial Tutor. After saying that, she immediately stood up. You are the Sword Emperor Sex Imperial Tutor, right? The two of them had just stood up, but at this moment, 3 people walked over. Judging from their clothes, they were obviously from the gambling house. We are here to deliver the Imperial Tutor's report. The leader said. Lin Yu noticed Yang Mu behind this person. What's the matter? Yang Mu was stunned when he heard his words. Imperial Tutor, the gambling house said that we only won 100,000 glory baht. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a loud bang. The table in front of Lin Yu was torn apart. Chapter 417. The people of the gambling house were startled, and the shattered pieces of the table scattered all over the ground. This also attracted the attention of the others. The one who was angry was not Lin Yu, but Yang Kai, who was next to him. I heard that the Zither Emperor's Imperial Tutor is overbearing and extraordinary. I didn't expect that even the people in his hands are the same. The man from the gambling house smiled faintly. He was not afraid of Lin Yu's anger at all. Instead, he continued, to be honest, the 100 billion dazzling baht that you sent people to bet, our subordinates only received 1,100 million. Yang Mu, Yang Kai, and the others already had solemn expressions, and there was already anger in their eyes. But when the person who spoke looked at Lin Yu, he couldn't detect any emotional fluctuations. That person couldn't help but feel a sense of oppression in his heart. This sense of oppression came from Lin Yu. Are you trying to deny it? Yang Mu said coldly. That person laughed embarrassedly and stared at Yang Mu. Yang Mu, are you old things courting death? As soon as his voice fell, a long sword was placed on that person's neck. Zhuang Tian Gang, what do you want to do? In an instant, everyone in the gambling house held their swords and surrounded Lin Yu and the others in a short moment. These people appeared too quickly. It made people feel as if they had already prepared an ambush nearby. Once Lin Yu and the others made any moves, these people would immediately attack like now. It seems that the Imperial Tutor has other things to do. Then Jieyu will take her leave first. Hua Jieyu was smart. How could she not know what was going on? It was impossible for these people from the gambling house to dare to touch Lin Yu. And the current situation could only mean that someone behind the gambling house ordered them to attack Lin Yu. Whether this attack was a test or a real fight, Hua Jieyu had already confirmed Lin Yu's current situation. It seemed that she didn't need to do anything. He might not even be able to protect himself. Didn't we agree to have a match? How can you leave just like that? Lin Yu said with a faint smile. The moment his voice sounded, a wave of divine sense spread out at the same time. Hua Jieyu came from the divine will Emperor Gate, so how could she not sense this fluctuation? He immediately sneered in his heart. Using his divine will in front of the divine will Emperor Gate? That was courting death. As she thought of this, Hua Jiu's divine sense erupted, causing her clothes to flutter without any wind. She originally thought that Lin Yu's spiritual will was no match for hers. But suddenly, Hua Jiu felt an instinctive suppression. The divine will clansmen were irresistible. Boom! These words were like a voice that came from the ancient times. It was unknown how many years had passed, but it was a voice that came from the accumulation of time. Hua Jiu only heard one sentence, and her mind was already in incomparable pain. Whoosh! Her entire body went limp as if she had collapsed. He briefly lost his strength, but in his eyes, there was only fear left for Lin Yu. What was that voice? A single sentence had broken her law realm divine sense. Lin Yu couldn't be bothered with her. Only the others who saw this scene were shocked. If he didn't allow anyone to leave, even Hua Jiu from the Divine Will Imperial Gate wouldn't dare to take half a step forward. The Zither Emperor Gate's Imperial Preceptor was actually so domineering. He Qing, our Imperial Preceptor, has placed a bet of 100 billion. Zhuang Tiangang said coldly. He Qing, who had his sword pressed against his neck, frowned and pointed at Zhuang Tiangong's sword. Old thing, no matter how much Lin Yu is placed, if you dare to hurt this young master in the slightest, I guarantee that you won't be able to leave this gambling house. He Qing immediately warned. Hearing this, Zhuang Tiangang revealed a difficult expression. It was obvious that he had been intimidated by him. Yang Mu also grabbed his hand. Big brother Zhuang, we are here to reason. Don't let your emotions affect your decisions and ruin the big picture. Interesting. Although the two of you are only abandoned children of our Sword Emperor Gate, I didn't expect that after not seeing you for a few days, you would join the Zither Emperor Gate. Zhuang Tiangong's sword had already been put down, and He Qing couldn't help but sneer. Seeing that the two of them were angry but didn't dare to answer, his gaze turned to Lin Yu. Imperial Preceptor naturally has a high position in the Zither Emperor Gate city, but this is my Sword Emperor Gate. Everything has to be reasonable. He Qing raised his hand and pretended to be helpless. Imperial Preceptor only placed a bet of 11,000 glory baht. According to Imperial Preceptor's odds of 9 times, we can only give you 99,000 glory baht. He shook his head and smiled again, but Imperial Preceptor is a guest, and it's not easy to place a bet in my gambling house. So this he is willing to make the decision to give Imperial Preceptor an extra 1,000 glory baht, for a total of 100,000 glory baht. After saying that, he raised his hand, and a servant of the gambling house immediately brought out 100,000 glory baht. After He Qing raised his eyebrows, the 100,000 glory baht was directly poured in front of Lin Yu. The glory baht fell to the ground. Crackling sounds could be heard. Yang Kai and Lien Yin had already clenched their fists. As long as Lin Yu gave the order, they didn't mind fighting this group of people, especially Yang Kai. He recognized this He Qing. Many years ago, he was one of Li Chen's last disciples. According to seniority, he was Xiao Wushuang's junior brother. Imperial Preceptor, my gambling house opened its doors to do business, so naturally, credibility is the first. He Qing pointed to the glory baht on the ground. I ask Imperial Preceptor to personally count the number of glory baht so that this he can send you off. His words were like a smile that wasn't a smile. It sounded polite, but no one was a fool. It was obvious that he wanted Lin Yu to take the glory baht and get out of here. Call Xiao Wushuang out. Lin Yu sat down and didn't even look at the glory baht on the ground. Haha, this he can make the decision on this matter. Imperial Preceptor, please. He Qing pointed to the glory bot on the ground again. If the number is correct, then this he won't send you off. He Qing's voice fell. Immediately, the dozens of people surrounding Lin Yu stood up and shouted, "Send the guest off." The voice was so loud that many people looked over, knowing that there was a good show to watch. This Zither Emperor's Sex Imperial Preceptor caused us to lose so much money. Is he going to be dealt with by the gambling house? If He Qing makes a move, how can he have a good time? Who doesn't know how many people have died under He Qing's hands in the gambling house over the years? But those people are all gamblers. Could it be that this Lin Yu also cheated? Who cares? He actually dared to win against Mo Yin Uni and caused me to lose over 1 million glory bot. He deserves to die. Everyone looked at Lin Yu and the others with schadenfreude. The latter didn't move at all, but He Qing had already stepped on the glory bot on the ground and took a few steps forward to Lin Yu. Imperial Preceptor, do you want me to repeat myself? He Qing stared at Lin Yu with ridicule. In his opinion, this was the gambling house of the Sword Emperor's sect. No one in the Emperor's sect would dare to touch him here. Lin Yu dared to win money from here. That was the same as moving on the head of the Tai Sui. No matter what Imperial Preceptor of the Zither Emperor's sect, once you enter the city, you have to be obedient. My ears are not good. Can you speak closer? Lin Yu chuckled. He Qing had seen too many people like this. They pretended to be calm, but in reality, they were scared to death. However, when Yang Kai and Lin Yin saw Lin Yu's expression, they had already foreseen what would happen next. So the Zither Emperor's sect's Imperial Preceptor's ears are not good. He Qing laughed loudly and approached Lin Yu 2 feet away. He lowered his head and shouted at Lin Yu, who was sitting in his seat, "I told you to scram after taking 100,000 glory bot." So, before he could finish his sentence, he suddenly saw a hand grab his neck. Chapter 418. He Qing felt his neck being grabbed by Lin Yu's hand, and he didn't even have time to react. When he tried to break free, he felt a terrifying force spread throughout his body. Immediately, He Qing's entire body was suppressed. Even though Lin Yu had grasped his lifeline, he didn't even have the strength to resist. "Lin Yu, this is the Sword Emperor's sect. How dare you?" He Qing's eyes were bloodshot as he warned Lin Yu sternly. However, the latter just smiled and didn't care about the surrounding people who were closing in on them. Yang Kai and Lin Yin stood up at the same time. They swept their eyes around, and the pressure of the law realm burst out, making these people afraid to take even half a step forward. "Xiao Wushuang, if you don't want your people to die, get out here." Lin Yu's calm voice sounded. Everyone was confused, but soon they heard the sound of clapping. In a corner of the gambling house, where only He Qing and the other members of the gambling house could come out, a few claps suddenly sounded. "Pa! Pa!" Everyone quieted down and looked over. They immediately saw a middle-aged man slowly walking out. When they saw his face, these people made way for him. "Sir Sword Venerable." "Greetings, Sir Sword Venerable." The people of the Sword Emperor sect all knelt down. The person who came was none other than the person Lin Yu mentioned, the number 1 person of the Sword Emperor sect's younger generation, Sword Venerable Xiao Wushuang. "Ha! State Teacher Lin is really bold. You actually dare to touch my junior brother in my Sword Emperor sect." Xiao Wushuang's old eyes stared at He Qing's throat. His pupils contracted as he felt the strength in Lin Yu's hand. He believed that this was just Lin Yu's bluff. Unless Lin Yu was tired of living, a normal person wouldn't dare to touch his people in the Sword Emperor sect. "Young Master Wushuang is really bold to dare to cheat me of my money." Against Xiao Wushuang, this was his territory. When Xiao Wushuang appeared, everyone already saw Lin Yu as a thorn in their side. But even under such circumstances, Lin Yu was still calm and composed, without any hint of nervousness. "This brat is too daring. Perhaps he doesn't know how many people die in Xiao Wushuang's hands every year. Now, there's a good show to watch." Everyone already regarded Lin Yu as a dead man. After all, within the Sword Emperor sect, there was no one who could go against Xiao Wushuang. As for those who had tried, they were basically all dead. Interesting. State Preceptor Lin said that he cheated you of your money. Do you have any evidence?" Xiao Wushuang probed. How could Lin Yu not know what the other party meant? However, the gambling house did not have any evidence to begin with. In other words, no one would have thought that the Sword Emperor sect would go back on their word. Evidence? Lin Yu smiled. He definitely did not have any evidence now. Xiao Wushuang also knew this, which was why he dared to make things difficult for him so confidently. Lian Yin, Yang Kai, and the others were not fools. They naturally understood that everything had happened from the moment Lin Yu won. Xiao Wushuang had already started a plan. If you don't have any evidence, State Preceptor Lin, please let my junior brother go. Xiao Wushuang seemed to be speaking politely, but in reality, the others could hear that it was a warning. In the Sword Emperor sect, Xiao Wushuang's words represented the Sword Envoy. His words determined everyone's life and death. But even though Xiao Wushuang spoke, Lin Yu still did not move. Instead, he increased the strength of his hand. He Qing was already bleeding from the corner of his mouth. He wanted to curse Lin Yu, but he could not spit out a single word. State Preceptor Lin has no evidence and is making things difficult for my junior brother. Are you deliberately going against the Sword Emperor sect? Xiao Wushuang's eyes gradually turned cold. As his voice fell, Xiao Wushuang slowly approached Lin Yu. With every step he took, a formless sword qi would burst out. It was as if countless small qi swords were revolving around his every step. The surrounding people felt a lot of pressure and took a few steps back. But Xiao Wushuang's sword qi principle was obviously not directed at them, but at Lin Yu. I advise you to take it easy. If you anger me, your junior brother's life will be gone. As Lin Yu's voice fell, the sword qi that had surrounded him was immediately dispersed. However, it was not Lin Yu who made the move, but Yang Kai who was beside him. At this moment, Yang Kai was already standing in front of Xiao Wushuang. The people of the Sword Emperor sect wanted to mess with Lin Yu. Even if his identity was exposed, Yang Kai would not hesitate to fight back for Lin Yu. Keeping a low profile as the sect master was his bottom line. Anyone who touched this bottom line was touching Yang Kai's reverse scale. They would definitely pay a bloody price. Xiao Wushuang narrowed his eyes and saw that Yang Kai was already standing in front of him. At this moment, Xiao Wushuang suddenly realized that his sword qi was being suppressed by Yang Kai. He is only at the first heavenly layer of the law realm, one level lower than me. Why can he suppress my sword qi? Xiao Wushuang was surprised, but there was only one reason for the current situation. Yang Kai's attainments in the Sword Dao were far above his. Only then could he make up for the gap between their realms. This person's Sword Dao is not inferior to Master's. This was the first time Xiao Wushuang had such a terrifying feeling, and looking at Yang Kai's appearance. That old appearance made Xiao Wushuang's heart tighten, and he suddenly thought of a person's name. The Emperor sect's first sword. He was an influential figure in the Emperor sect star field. 20 years ago, he could defeat a Grand Elder at the Invincible Realm. 20 years ago, he had already reached the 5th realm of the Sword Dao. All things are swords. Impossible. Master said that he is already dead. Xiao Wushuang was greatly shocked. No one in the younger generation of the Emperor sect could give him such a huge shock. But Yang Kai had such capital. You are the Emperor sect's first sword, Yang Kai. Xiao Wushuang took a step closer and asked in a low voice. Only Yang Kai, Lin Yu, and the others could hear this voice. Otherwise, if the others in the Sword Emperor sect heard it, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. However, Yang Kai glanced at Lin Yu. He didn't say anything, but Lin Yu already knew what he was thinking. Since that's the case, we might as well be high profile. Lin Yu's voice sounded. Kai Yang had been silent for a long time, but at this moment he burst out laughing. This laughter echoed in the entire gambling house, and many people's gazes were fixed on Yang Kai. Originally, they only cared about Lin Yu, the Zither Emperor's sect's imperial tutor. But now, they noticed that this person's laughter actually suppressed Xiao Wushuang's Sword Dao layer by layer. Not only was his Sword Dao suppressed, even Xiao Wushuang took a few steps back. He stared at Yang Kai, and his initial arrogance immediately disappeared. In terms of seniority, you should call me Martial Uncle. Yang Kai's laughter stopped. The moment he said this, he took a step forward. Forget it, I don't care anymore. He looked up to the sky and laughed. The Emperor Sek's first sword is already in the past. I am now a sword cultivator under the Zither Emperor's Sek's imperial tutor, and also the low-key Sek punishment, evil left envoy, Yang Kai. Chapter 419. Xiao Wushuang's eyes widened, unable to believe that his honored master's old enemy from 20 years ago would reappear in such a way. He had become a sword cultivator under the Zither Emperor's Sek's imperial teacher. What else? Low-key sect? Xiao Wushuang couldn't help but laugh. What low-key sect? I've never even heard of it. He laughed awkwardly, suppressing his shock at Yang Kai's identity, and said sarcastically, Martial Uncle left the Sword Emperor sect many years ago, but I didn't expect him to return. Martial Nephew is deeply regretful. Xiao Wushuang shook his head, but the dread in his eyes was overflowing. As he spoke, Xiao Wushuang subconsciously took a few steps back. He knew in his heart that he was not Yang Kai's opponent. This person's cultivation was lower than his, but his sword Dao had reached an unprecedented level. He was not someone Xiao Wushuang could match. If Honored Master knew that Martial Uncle had returned, he would definitely be very happy. Xiao Wushuang's eyes were sharp as he immediately sent a message to his honored master. Sword Emperor Sek's Sword Envoy, Li Chun. When Yang Kai heard the word honored master, a terrifying fighting spirit immediately appeared in his eyes. This combat strength made Xiao Wushuang's heart tremble. Sure enough, this person was not someone he could deal with. Imperial Teacher Lin, is this your trump card for acting so atrociously in my Sword Emperor sect? Compared to Yang Kai, Xiao Wushuang now felt that Lin Yu was easier to deal with. Hearing this, Lin Yu smiled. No, I am a reasonable person. He grabbed Ti Ching with one hand and walked over, as if he was holding a corpse, and stood in front of Xiao Wushuang. Do you want evidence of my bet? A voice as calm as an ancient well came out. Xiao Wushuang's eyes narrowed. Yes, everything requires evidence. My casino only saw Imperial Teacher Lin bet 11,000 glory baht, nothing more. So it's like that. Lin Yu rubbed his chin with his remaining hand, and, at the same time, the strength of his other hand suddenly increased several times. He Qing's scream immediately rang out, and Xiao Wushuang shouted angrily. Lin Yu, what is the meaning of this? He wanted to attack, but the people from the Sword Emperor's sect kept surrounding them. But with Yang Kai's sword chi spreading out, none of them dared to approach. What's the use of having more people? The number one sword of Emperor's Gate is still the number one sword of Emperor's Gate. Lin Yu's calm voice sounded again. This was a slap to the face of Xiao Wushuang and everyone from the Sword Emperor's sect. However, the area around him, Yang Kai, Lian Yin, and the others had already been covered by Yang Kai's sword chi. It wasn't just the disciples of the Sword Emperor's sect who couldn't get close. Even Xiao Wushuang didn't dare to say that he could easily break through Kai Yang's sword chi barrier. Lin Yu, this is my Sword Emperor Gate, not your Zither Emperor Gate. Xiao Wushuang raised his hand. Suddenly, tens of thousands of sword cultivators gathered in the sky above the gambling house. It was as if these people had been lying in ambush here since a long time ago. When Xiao Wushuang gave the order, it didn't take long for them to arrive like a swarm of locusts. The weather has changed. The number one immortal of the Alchemy Emperor Gate, Yu Xiao, was still thinking about how to fight Xiao Wushuang tomorrow when a subordinate came to report. Yu Xiao walked out of the palace, her beautiful eyes solemn. Do you know what happened? I heard that the people from the Zither Emperor's sect went to the gambling house, and then Xiao Wushuang set up a large number of troops there. The subordinate replied. Yu Xiao's heart suddenly trembled. Zither Emperor Gate. Is it Lin Yu again? Young lady, it seems that Xiao Wushuang is deliberately making things difficult for the people from the Zither Emperor Gate. I heard that it has something to do with Lin Yu betting 100 billion glory baht on himself. Yu Xiao snorted coldly. It's fine if he won against Mo Lin Yuni, but he bet 100 billion glory baht. Isn't he trying to suck the blood of the Sword Emperor Gate dry? That gambling house is the private property of Xiao Wushuang and Li Chun. In theory, it doesn't belong to the Sword Emperor Gate, so Li Chun won't sit back and ignore Lin Yu's bet this time. The subordinate was an old woman. At this moment, she weighed the pros and cons and continued. Young lady, just let them kill each other. This will be beneficial to our battle tomorrow. Mother Yu, do you think I can win against Xiao Wushuang? Yu Xiao's dejected voice sounded. The person called Mother Yu also comforted Yu Xiao. It's fine as long as young lady has done her best. This time, the elder said that the Sword Dao Conference is just a ceremony for Xiao Wushuang to succeed the position of Sword Envoy. Pa! Several of the railings outside the palace were broken by Yu Xiao's palm. A ceremony? They're looking down on everyone who is participating in the Sword Dao Conference. Yu Xiao's beautiful eyes were burning with anger. Since the Sword Emperor Gate sent a sword invitation to invite sword experts to compete with them, we will definitely do our best. Yu Xiao was so angry that she continued, Xiao Wushuang might not be invincible in the Sword Dao. As Yu Xiao spoke, she thought of the young man in black that night. That young man's Sword Dao was far above hers. If she was defeated by Xiao Wushuang, the only person who could defeat Xiao Wushuang was that young man. Judging from the perfunctory attitude of the Sword Emperor Gate's people towards Xiong Wenlong, they obviously agreed with the actions of the Tang Emperor Gate. Therefore, that annoying guy won't come to the Sword Emperor Gate. Yu Xiao muttered to herself. She was sure that Mo Yin Yuni couldn't be the man from that night. He was weak and didn't have the arrogant temperament of that guy. Mother Yu, let's go and take a look. Yu Xiao did not wait for Nanny Yu to react, and her figure had already disappeared from the spot. Young lady, Mother Yu shook her head and followed her helplessly. Lin Yu is dead meat. In the guest hall, Mo Yin Yuni had just recovered from the humiliation of losing to Lin Yu when he saw the monstrous sword chi in the direction of the gambling house. A fierce battle seemed to be about to begin. No one expected that the second battle of the Sword Dao Conference had yet to begin, but the battle had already begun in the gambling house. State Preceptor Lin, you'd better think carefully. Once you touch my junior brother, you can forget about leaving today, even if the Qin Empress comes personally. Xiao Wushuang said coldly with killing intent in his eyes. Lin Yin's beautiful eyes flickered, and she came behind Lin Yu. I respect your decision. At most, we won't play at the Sword Dao Conference. Lin Yu smirked and exerted more force in his hand, causing He Qing to spit out a large mouthful of blood. Xiao Wushuang cursed in his heart. Does this kid really want to start a war? He originally just wanted to send Lin Yu away. After all, he had bet 100 billion glory bot, and he had to return 1 trillion glory bot to Lin Yu. That was basically killing his gambling house. However, he didn't expect that not only did he fail to send Lin Yu away, he even used the army that he had set up just in case. However, Lin Yu still didn't look afraid at all. Lin Yu naturally knew the current situation. If he really started a war, it wouldn't do him any good. I'm a reasonable person. Lin Yu suddenly spoke, but he wasn't talking to Xiao Wushuang, but He Qing in his hand. Tell me, how much did I bet? As soon as he said that, Lin Yu's body and divine sense pressure descended at the same time. He Qing's body trembled violently, as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Chapter 420. He Qing also suddenly realized that he could speak at this moment. This was obviously Lin Yu's intention. If he wants you to speak, speak. If he wants you to shut up, shut up. He Qing's back was already cold. This seemingly harmless young man's ability to control others had already exceeded his scope of understanding. State Teacher Lin. Xiao Wushuang could see that Lin Yu wanted to force a confession, but just as he opened his mouth, Yang Kai and Lin Yin appeared in front of Lin Yu at the same time and blocked Xiao Wushuang. State Teacher is asking a question. Young Master Wushuang, please wait for a moment. Lin Yin immediately saw through Lin Yu's intention and suppressed Xiao Wushuang with a sentence. Xiao Wushuang's gaze was solemn as he stared at He Qing and transmitted his voice. wanting to order the latter to keep his mouth shut even if he died. However, at the instant his divine sense was sent out, an invisible divine sense barrier suddenly appeared before Xiao Wushuang, and it even forced his divine sense back. Grand divine sense stage. Although his cultivation was at the second heavenly layer of the laws, his divine sense was only at the invincible stage. How could he resist Lin Yu's grand divine sense? Xiao Wushuang sensed that something was wrong and looked at Lin Yu. The latter smiled faintly and continued to interrogate He Qing without even looking at him. I'm asking you a question. Lin Yu's voice came again. He Qing only felt that his divine sense and battle physique were constantly being suppressed. Coupled with the terrifying force coming from his throat, it was a signal from Lin Yu that he could break his neck at any time. Under all these threats, how could it be an ordinary question? It was clearly Lin Yu torturing He Qing. I don't have much patience. Lin Yu closed the distance between He Qing and himself. During the 100,000 years he was trapped, he understood this person and knew his biggest secret. Lin Yu said calmly in He Qing's ear, "You know that I dare to kill you, but I don't need to do it myself." Lin Yu's sudden words made He Qing sneer in his heart. Hee, are you bluffing? However, in the next moment, Lin Yu continued, "If Xiao Wushuang knew that you slept with his woman, do you think I would still need to do anything?" As soon as he said that, He Qing felt even worse than before. This was his biggest secret. As Xiao Wushuang's influence grew, this secret became the thing that He Qing feared the most. I just accidentally went in at that time. He Qing wanted to explain, but all she got in return was Lin Yu's calm gaze that didn't seem to care about anything. I don't care about the reason. Not just me, Xiao Wushuang. I think he wouldn't care about the reason either. He would only want to kill you immediately. Hearing Lin Yu's words, He Qing only felt that his life was in Lin Yu's hands. If he still felt a little fearless, it was because this was the Sword Emperor's sect. Now that Xiao Wushuang had appeared, Xiao Wushuang would definitely protect his life. But things were different now. Impossible. You don't have any evidence. He Qing's forehead was covered in cold sweat. No, I don't know what you're talking about. He almost confessed without being pressed. I don't have any evidence, but you also know that this matter can't be hidden. Once Xiao Wushuang becomes suspicious with the future Sword Envoy's ability, he will definitely find out. Lin Yu's tone was extremely calm, but every word was like a needle piercing He Qing's last line of defense. Then what do you want me to do? He Qing said in a low voice as he looked in Xiao Wushuang's direction. Fortunately, Lian Yin and Yang Kai were blocking Xiao Wushuang's line of sight. Otherwise, the latter would definitely become suspicious if he saw him talking to Lin Yu like this. You're a smart person. I don't need to say more, right? Lin Yu said indifferently. He Qing's heart tightened. Impossible. If I tell the truth, senior brother won't let me go. Enduring Xiao Wushuang's anger is better than enduring his killing intent. I'll send you on your way. As for what you choose, it's up to you. Lin Yu let go of his hand and slammed his palm directly into He Qing's chest. Golden light bloomed. It was the powerful cyclone of his zenith stage golden body. The power of the zenith stage not only hit He Qing's body, but also swept across the entire casino, causing the air in the casino to form a temporary storm. Rumbling sounds could be heard continuously. Everyone could already see He Qing's pained expression in the storm. The zenith storm cyclone only stopped after a long while. But the moment the storm stopped, everyone heard the sound of someone spitting out blood. He Qing coughed out a large mouthful of blood. I'll talk. He Qing looked at Lin Yu gratefully, knowing that this was Lin Yu's trick. He shouted in a pained voice, Imperial teacher, bet 100 billion glory bot. After saying that, Lin Yu gave He Qing another palm. With a loud bang, He Qing was sent flying. This was the first time He Qing was so grateful after being beaten by someone. Bang! He Qing fell to the ground and fainted. Following his fainting, the gambling house was completely silent. Everyone heard He Qing's last words before he fainted. Imperial teacher bet 100 billion glory bot. These words were like muffled thunder exploding in the ears of everyone in the gambling house. However, Xiao Wushuang was even angrier. At this moment, he could only hear a buzzing sound in his mind. Everyone's eyes had unknowingly shifted to him. Clap, clap. The sound of clapping suddenly came from outside the casino. Everyone looked over and saw a beautiful figure standing outside the door. Behind her was Mother Yu, and in front of her was the #1 immortal of the Alchemy Emperor Gate, Yu Xiao. So there are sword sovereigns of the Sword Emperor Gate who don't acknowledge their bet. Yu Xiao already knew the whole story from the information she received. Even on the way, she was still thinking about what method Lin Yu would use to deal with Xiao Wushuang's deliberate difficulties. However, she never thought that the moment she arrived, she would see Xiao Wushuang's junior brother personally acknowledge Lin Yu's bet. Yu Xiao couldn't help but laugh. I heard that young Master Wushuang's junior brother is the manager of this casino. His words shouldn't be wrong, right? Yu Xiao spoke again. At this moment, there was no need for the people of the Zither Emperor Gate to speak anymore. Xiao Wushuang's expression was gloomy to the extreme. He Qing, you deserve to die. If He Qing was still awake, he wouldn't mind giving him a few more slashes. What was hateful was that He Qing had already fainted and was carried away by his subordinates. Xiao Wushuang, this damn cat, could only swallow it down. Since the manager of the casino, He Qing, has already admitted it, then I asked Sword Sovereign to return our Imperial Teacher's 100 billion glory bot, plus the 900 billion glory bot he won. Yang Mu clasped his fists and said respectfully. She was ordered by Lin Yu to retrieve the glory bot. Now that she had not completed her mission, she still needed Lin Yu to personally take action. In fact, she was already a bit afraid. After listening, with the current situation, Xiao Wushuang was unable to justify himself. However, when the atmosphere became stiff, outside the casino, a frivolous man's voice suddenly came. He, Imperial Teacher, so you're here. Chapter 421. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. It was Mo Lin Yuni of the Shura Emperor's sect. When he saw Yu Xiao, he swallowed his saliva and went forward to greet her. Xiao, you promised to talk to me about that night. Why did you ignore me when I sent people to the Medicine Emperor's sect's guest hall? Mo Lin Yuni showed an innocent look. He was handsome to begin with, and with this appearance, it was easy for inexperienced women to fall for him. However, Yu Xiao's mind was only filled with the scene of him losing to Lin Yu in the morning. Also, when Lin Yu and Mo Lin Yuni were playing the zither, Lin Yu touched her there. This incident was deeply engraved in Yu Xiao's heart like a brand. This was also the reason why she came here to help Lin Yu out of her obsession. Stop pretending you're definitely not that person. Get out of my way. Yu Xiao thought of the Sword Dao youth's arrogance and compared it to Mo Lin Yuni's current appearance. The latter made her feel a little nauseous. Mo Lin Yuni had been in love for many years. How could he not notice that Yu Xiao's eyes had been intentionally or unintentionally falling on Lin Yu? Damn it, he won the Sword Dao conference, and now he wants to steal my woman. But when Mo Lin Yun's anger came out, his pupils dilated again. This was because he saw Hua Jiyu lying limply on the chair next to Lin Yu. Mo Lin Yuni was too familiar with this appearance. Lin Yu, I'm going to kill you. Mo Lin Yuni cursed in his heart, but he was not a fool. How could he have a conflict with Lin Yu? State Preceptor Lin, you should give me the friendship fee from this morning, right? Mo Lin Yuni's voice sounded. Especially when they heard the words friendship fee, a thought flashed through everyone's mind. There's something wrong with the battle between Lin Yu and Mo Lin Yuni this morning. It's not just a problem. From what I can see, Lin Yu might have bribed Mo Lin Yuni and made him lose on purpose. If that's really the case, then Lin Yu also bet 100 billion dazzling bot at our gambling house at the same time. It turns out that this kid had premeditated this. His intentions are worthy of death. The situation was once again reversed because of Mo Lin Yuni's words. Xiao Wushuang's mind was outstanding. When he saw Mo Lin Yuni give him a meaningful glance, he understood. State Preceptor Lin, I didn't mean to withhold your bet, but you've seen it for yourself. Xiao Wushuang shook his head helplessly and let out a long sigh. I also want to believe in Imperial Advisor Lin. Unfortunately, the truth is right in front of us. I'm afraid there's a problem with the Imperial Advisor's victory today. With that, he raised his hand. The Sword Emperor Gate's army once again had a reason to encircle the Zither Emperor Gate. Mo Yin Uni, I still remember clearly how you kneeled and begged for mercy in front of our Imperial Advisor. Lien Yin gritted her teeth. She felt that Mo Yin Uni was too shameless. At this moment, she couldn't help but speak up. Everyone looked at Mo Yin Uni, but the latter had already polished his face. He smiled and said, Your Highness, no matter how much nonsense you spout, it's useless. State Preceptor Lin did make me lose to him on purpose, sigh. Mo Yin Uni shook his head. I originally wanted to sell a favor to the State Preceptor of the Zither Emperor sect. However, the State Preceptor didn't give me the friendship fee that we agreed on, so I had no choice but to come and ask for it. As soon as he finished speaking, Mo Yin Uni stretched out his hand towards Lin Yu. In terms of Dao Heart, he might not be a match for Lin Yu, so much so that he had already lost to Lin Yu before he had even made a move. However, in terms of mental skills, he didn't think that he would lose to Lin Yu. State Preceptor, I hope you can explain this matter. Xiao Wushuang snorted coldly, and everyone surrounded him. Looking down on our Sword Emperor Sect's Sword Dao Conference, no matter where you are from, we won't let you leave the gambling house today. The Zither Emperor Sect has gone too far, messing up the rules of our Sword Dao Conference, and even trying to cheat our Sword Emperor Sect of a sum of money. We can't let this kid off. Mo Lien Uni smiled, although he would be implicated by the Sword Emperor Sect in this matter. After all, the one who benefited the most right now was Lin Yu. Most of these people were shouting because they had lost a lot of money in the battle with Lin Yu. Now that they knew that they had been tricked by Lin Yu, all their hatred was naturally directed at Lin Yu. Mo Lien Uni. Lin Yu's expression was still calm. With Yang Kai and Lianin around, these people could only clamor, but they didn't dare to approach him easily. When Lin Yu looked over, Mo Lien Uni immediately felt apprehensive. What? Didn't you want the friendship fee? Lin Yu stretched out a hand and pointed at Mo Lien Uni, hooking his finger. Come and get it, I'll give it to you. When the voice came, Mo Lien Uni thought of the fear he had when he faced Lin Yu the previous 2 times. This had already left a psychological shadow in his heart. Mo Lien Uni swallowed his saliva and his face twitched. How would he dare to go over? Hee, Imperial Teacher Lin, you're not thinking of killing me to silence me, are you? Hearing this, even Xiao Wushuang warned, Imperial Teacher, this is not your Zither Emperor sect. Young Master Uni is now a witness. If you want to touch him, you have to go through this king first. He stood out to support Mo Lien Uni. Everyone also cursed Lin Yu angrily. However, the latter said with an innocent face, Strange, I can't beat young Master Uni. How can I silence him? When these words came out, Xiao Wushuang's heart tightened. However, the next moment, Lin Yu continued, Since young Master Uni insists that there is something fishy about the battle between you and me, why don't we fight again? Lin Yu didn't like to explain too much. Some violent methods were often more useful than explanations. For example, he beat He Qing into a confession. As long as He Qing said something that was beneficial to him, no one could blame him. For example, now that Mo Lien Uni wanted to mess with him, he didn't mind facing him head-on. How about it? Lin Yu raised his eyebrows. I can't give you the friendship fee, and you can't beat me. If you don't believe me, you can try. These contemptuous words mixed with Lin Yu's 3 elements in one realm echoed in the gambling house. Everyone looked at Mo Lien Uni again. Many people stood up for him. This Lin Yu is too arrogant. Young Master Uni, teach him a lesson. Yes, since you don't plan to pay, then let's have a fight. We support young Master Uni. Fight again. Fight again. When these voices entered Mo Lien Uni's ears, He immediately cursed these people's mothers. However, the conflicted look on his face was even uglier than when he lost to Lin Yu in the morning. He has become my nightmare. If I don't defeat him, it will be difficult for me to improve my Tao in the future. Mo Lin Yu gritted his teeth. From the corner of his eye, he saw Hua Jiu leaning against Lin Yu. Moreover, Yu Xiaoxiao's attitude showed that she was on Lin Yu's side. Mo Lin Yu threw caution to the wind. As long as he could overcome his fear of Lin Yu, he didn't think he would lose to him. All right, I will fight you for real this time. Chapter 422. Once Mo Lin Yu won, Lin Yu's cheating in the Sword Dao Conference today would be confirmed. This imperial tutor of the Zither Emperor's sect would be ruined in the Emperor's Gate starfield. As soon as Mo Lin Yu's voice fell, the entire audience was in an uproar. Everyone was cheering for him. Yu Xiaoxiao couldn't help but worry, although she didn't know how Lin Yu defeated Mo Lin Yu in the morning. But in the end, the difference in strength between the two was too great. At this moment, Mo Lin Yu had already stepped into the air and flew onto the stage in the middle of the gambling house. He stretched out his hand towards Lin Yu. Lin Yu, come up. The show had begun. How could the people of the Sword Emperor's sect let Lin Yu go? Immediately, the entire audience was clamoring for Lin Yu to go on stage. However, even though the crowd was shouting, the latter had a helpless expression on his face. Instead, he looked toward Xiao Wushuang and said, I don't need to fight a second round because I already won this morning. From his tone, it seemed like he wanted to retreat. Listen, Xiao Wushuang secretly sensed that something was wrong. How could he let him go at this time? This is also to prove that the Imperial Tutor won the battle fair and square. It is also for the Imperial Tutor's own good. Shaking his head, Lin Yu deliberately shrugged his shoulders with a puzzled expression. Why should I prove it to you? Narrowing his eyes, Xiao Wushuang smiled and said, Don't tell me that the Imperial Tutor doesn't want to take back the Yao bot you won. You're willing to give it to me? Lin Yu sighed lightly. I thought that the Sword Emperor's sect's gambling house was determined to deny it. Imperial Tutor, you're wrong. Our Sword Sect gambling house has always been known for its trustworthiness. In the beginning, we were also suspicious of the Imperial Tutor's victory over young Master Uni, so we temporarily withheld the Imperial Tutor's bet. Xiao Wushuang said in a righteous tone, The gambling house maintains fairness. This is also for the sake of the interests of everyone who placed their bets. Hearing Xiao Wushuang's words, the other members of the Sword Emperor's sect, as well as some rogue cultivators who had specially come here to watch the Sword Dao conference, were all grateful. Young Master Wushuang is indeed the #1 person in the younger generation of the Sword Emperor's sect. Good job, young Master Wushuang, to take care of us like this. On the other hand, trying to cheat to win Xiao Wushuang's money was a shameless act in their eyes. State Preceptor Lin, are you afraid of exposing yourself if you fight with young Master Uni? It was an unfair battle to begin with. It's reasonable for the State Preceptor to be worried that he would be beaten by young Master Uni. If the Imperial Preceptor kneels down and admits his mistake now, then take out your 100 billion Yao bot and divide it equally, we can forgive you. When these gamblers heard that they could benefit from it, they immediately mocked and ridiculed Lin Yu, especially those who had bet heavily on Mo Lin Yu during his battle with Lin Yu. Originally, he wanted to win some money with a low risk. Who knew that Mo Lin Yu would lose to Lin Yu, causing them to fail miserably? Now that there was a chance to turn things around, how could they let go of this opportunity? So if I win against Mo Lin Yu again, you can return me 1 trillion Yao bot? Lin Yu smiled and stared at Mo Lin Yu's face. Do you dare to guarantee this 1 trillion Yao bot, young Master Wushuang? His heart tightened. Xiao Wushuang's old face twitched, thinking that Li Chun would be here soon. Master will give you an answer when he comes personally. Xiao Wushuang didn't dare to bear such a large amount of Yao bot. Then forget it. Lin Yu turned and walked directly to the gambling house's entrance. Since young Master Wushuang can't make the decision, then there's no need to fight this battle. The crowd was in an uproar. Mo Lien Uni, who was in the arena, was stunned like an idiot. He had already thought of a strategy to deal with Lin Yu, but he didn't expect that Lin Yu, who had always taken the initiative to bully him, wouldn't dare to fight with him now. Sure enough, he was just trying to scare me. Lin Yu, get up here, Mo Lien Uni shouted. But Lin Yu and the others ignored him and continued to target Xiao Wushuang. He said angrily, since the Swords Gate gambling house is destined to break its promise, then return the 100 billion Yao bot to me and pretend that I didn't come here. Xiao Wushuang heard the determination in Lin Yu's voice. But he had already taken 100 billion Yao bot. How could he give it back? In addition to Mo Lien Yuni's confident look, Xiao Wushuang didn't believe that Lin Yu was his opponent. Hee, state teacher, please wait. Li Chun hadn't arrived yet, but there were so many people looking at him, the future sword envoy. Xiao Wushuang couldn't back down. He braced himself and said, "Fine, I agree to your conditions. One state teacher wins against young Master Uni. I will return the Yao bot to you with interest." Very good. When Lin Yu heard that the other party took the bait, he disappeared without thinking. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Mo Lien Uni. Come. This scene fell into the eyes of Xiao Wushuang and Mo Lien Uni. Their hearts suddenly skipped a beat as they felt that something was wrong. But before Xiao Wushuang could say anything, Mo Lien Uni had already made his move. He raised his right hand, and a stream of blood qi burst out from his palm. The blood qi instantly formed a 3-foot blood talisman. Mo Lien Uni's hands formed a seal, and the law merged into the blood talisman. Azura's descent. Mo Lien Uni's forehead was sweating. Facing Lin Yu, he didn't dare to delay the battle, so he used his biggest trump card. As his voice fell, the law merged with the blood talisman. The blood talisman trembled, and a huge scarlet figure suddenly appeared from the blood talisman. 100 feet, 500 feet, 100 feet. A 100 feet tall giant broke through the roof of the gambling house and looked down on everyone. Ancestral Tao, merge with my Dharma body. Kill. Mo Lien Uni gritted his teeth, and his eyes were bloodshot. He stared at Lin Yu with murderous intent. The Azura figure in the blood talisman directly raised his hand toward Lin Yu. Mo Lien Uni, aren't you supposed to compete with Lin Yu in the sword principle? What's with the Azura blood talisman? Yu Xiaoxiao also felt that it was unfair. Even if she shouted, Mo Lien Uni could hear it. But at this moment, all he could think of was to suppress Lin Yu with his cultivation and kill him first. Fairness in the sword principle was not important at all. This was also the reason why Mo Lien Uni immediately attacked Lin Yu as soon as he entered the arena. He wouldn't give Lin Yu any chance to set the rules. Damn it! Didn't they say that the winner would be decided by the sword principle? Yang Mu sensed that something was wrong and immediately said to Xiao Wushuang angrily, "The sword principle conference is a competition of the sword principle. Mo Lien Uni obviously knows that he can't beat our imperial teacher in the sword principle, so he's cheating." Not only him, but Xiao Wushuang also saw it. No wonder this kid lost to Lin Yu in the morning. This is not the sword principle conference. Xiao Wushuang sneered, too lazy to care about these people. As long as he could win, it would be fine. When Lin Yu became a dead man, he would vent his anger today. Why would he care about how Lin Yu died? Yang Mu was furious and was about to speak again, but he was stopped by Yang Kai. Big brother, if this continues, Imperial Teacher, he can win without relying on the sword principle because Imperial Teacher is invincible. Chapter 423. Yang Kai's words revealed his absolute trust in Lin Yu. It was also such an arrogant sentence that caused Yang Mu to be stunned for a moment. She suddenly recalled the first time the Imperial Tutor had attacked. That invincible combat strength that no one could withstand. The Imperial Tutor was invincible. She nodded heavily. In the arena, when the Azura Blood Shadow raised his hand, the flow of time and space around him seemed to slow down a lot. Everyone saw that the blood chi in the blood shadow's hand gathered on his fist. The tyrannical blood chi caused the flow of time and space to be affected. No one in the first heaven of the law realm can block this punch. Lin Yu is dead for sure. Young Master Wu Shuang, why don't we think about how to distribute Lin Yu's 100 billion glory bot? Those of us who placed bets are also victims, so we should get a share, right? The blood shadow's fist landed and blasted towards Lin Yu's location. As for Lin Yu, he seemed to be frightened and did not move at all. Everyone already thought that Lin Yu was a dead man. However, the blood shadow's fist suddenly stopped. Lin Yu's gaze was calm as his thunderous voice spread in all directions. Kneel before this emperor. His words were law, as if they carried some kind of supreme emperor's domineering aura, causing everyone's hearts to churn. However, when they came back to their senses, they only felt that Lin Yu had gone crazy. Who does he think he is? How dare he call himself this emperor? That Azura blood shadow contains the aura of the Azura Emperor Gate's ancestor, who is also a former Emperor Master. Only a descendant with a pure bloodline, like young Master Uni, can summon him. The blood shadow itself has the domineering aura of an Emperor Gate. Lin Yu is courting death by calling himself Emperor in front of the Emperor Gate's ancestor. Although the blood shadow was not a real life, it contained a trace of the great Tao aura of the Emperor Gate's ancestor, just as these people had said. When this aura sensed Lin Yu's order, it roared angrily. Lin Yu, you're courting death by offending my Azura Emperor Gate's ancestor. Mo Yin Uni could sense that Azura blood shadow's aura was becoming unstable. According to past experience, this meant that the ancestor was about to go berserk. Lin Yu was doomed. However, in the next moment, Mo Yin Uni's eyes almost fell out of their sockets. This was because he saw that the blood shadow had broken free from his control and was squatting down towards Lin Yu. Kneel. Isn't that the will of the Emperor's Gate ancestor? I heard that Lin Yu used this move to kill many of the Emperor Gate's experts. Ancestor Shura looked down on him. Why would he kneel before Lin Yu? The most confused person was Mo Yin Uni. He was trying his best to control the blood shadow, but the blood shadow remained motionless. Greetings, primogenitor, the crimson figure said. This voice seemed to have penetrated through countless years, as if it had come from ancient times. At that moment, it echoed in the gambling house. Everyone was shocked by the heavenly might of this ancient expert. Their minds were buzzing. However, what shocked them even more was that this ancient expert was actually kneeling before the 15-year-old Lin Yu. You know what to do. Lin Yu's voice sounded again. It was calm, but gave people a feeling of power. The people below the arena had yet to recover from this scene. However, in the next moment, they sucked in a breath of cold air again. This was because the Shura blood shadow stood up and said that he would attack. However, his target was not Lin Yu, but Mo Yin Uni behind him. He was the descendant of Shura who had summoned him. You deserve to die for offending the primogenitor. The blood shadow's thunderous voice sounded again. At the same time, a foot was already stomping towards Mo Yin Uni. Primogenitor? What primogenitor? That kid is an outsider. Primogenitor, I am your descendant. I am the 107th descendant of the branch. Mo Yin Uni's face was covered in tears. He even wanted to die now. In his heart, he felt that this primogenitor in front of him must have mistaken him for someone else. However, the other party could not hear him at all. He had already stomped his foot. Boom! A huge tremor spread from the bottom of the blood shadow's foot in all directions. The huge arena instantly exploded. The power of the blood shadow came from Mo Yin Uni. Under this stomp, it had dissipated at the same time. This also meant that Mo Yin Uni could no longer support this power. Half of the arena was turned into ruins. The entire place was silent. There was only the sound of stones sliding from the ruins. Even after waiting for a long time, they did not see Mo Yin Uni crawling out. He can't be dead, right? He was killed by something he made. Pala. Only then did Mo Yin Yuni crawl out from the ruins. However, he looked battered and exhausted. Where was the elegant young master's temperament from before? He looked at Linyu. He had lost to him again. This time, Linyu did not attack again. However, he was heavily injured and could not even stand up. Devil, you are a devil. Emo Yin Yuni pointed at Linyu and shouted. He rolled and crawled all the way out of the Swords Gate Casino. Everyone looked at this scene and was speechless for a long time. That, should I pay up? On the arena, Lin Yu's voice broke the dead silence. Xiao Wushuang came back to his senses and felt a chill down his spine, because even he would have to spend a lot of effort to deal with the Blood Ancestor. But how did Lin Yu manage to defeat Emo Yin Yuni with just a few words without even moving? Strange. Too strange. What, you want to deny it again? Lianine saw that Xiao Wushuang did not respond and immediately asked again. She was already impatient. Lin Yu won the Sword Dao meeting and the Glory Bot with his own ability. Now that the Sword Emperor's sect was making things difficult for him, she no longer needed to give Xiao Wushuang face. My Sword Emperor's sect can still afford a trivial trillion Glory Bot. Suddenly, the voice of an old man came from the sky above the casino. Hearing this voice, Yang Kai's blood suddenly boiled. He gripped his sword tightly with both hands. He was like a sharp sword that could not help but be unsheathed. Don't worry, now is not the time. Lin Yu jumped down from the arena and said casually. Only then did Yang Kai suppress his murderous intent. Greetings, sword-bearing envoy. Greetings, martial ancestor. All the disciples of the Sword Emperor's sect knelt down. As if he had met his savior, Xiao Wushuang flew up and appeared in front of the old man. He bowed and cupped his fists. Greetings, honored master. That old man nodded at Xiao Wushuang. Then his gaze landed below. This old man was dressed in gorgeous clothes. Although he looked very old, there were only wrinkles on his face. His strong bones and black hair showed that he was still in his prime. Especially this person's eyebrows. There was a supreme aura. It was the aura of the Sword Dao that only a top-level sword cultivator could have. He was Xiao Wushuang's honored master, the number one person under the Sword Emperor's sect master, sword-bearing envoy, Li Chun. At this moment, Li Chun's eyes met with Yang Kai's. Junior brother, long time no see. You really came back. One was in the sky, the other was on the ground. One had a venerable status, the other was unknown. Who would have thought that 20 years ago, Yang Kai's Emperor's sect's number one sword, the invincible sword, had suppressed Li Chun so much that he could not breathe. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.